Chapter 476. In the end, the team leader took on the responsibility of investigating from a close distance. This was because he was the slimmest in the entire team and had the fastest reflexes. He was able to avoid the densely packed Yuan Ko. In fact, we won't describe how this great team leader got close to the hole. We only need to know that he spent a lot of effort and experienced a lot of danger to reach his destination. What a deep hole! The team leader looked down the hole but couldn't see where the bottom of the hole was. He could only see darkness and the rustling sound of air flowing through the hole. No, I have to figure out how deep this hole is at least. The team leader looked around in alarm and found that Yuan Ko wasn't looking at him, so he secretly pushed a piece of gravel beside him into the hole. Based on the sound of the gravel falling, he could roughly estimate the depth of the hole. However, what the team leader didn't expect was that after more than 10 seconds, he still didn't hear a single echo. There were only two possibilities for this result. 1. The stone hadn't reached the bottom yet. 2. The stone had reached the bottom, but because it was too deep, the team leader couldn't hear the stone at all. No matter which reason it was, this hole was at least 1 kilometer deep. Only such a depth could isolate the echo of a stone falling to the ground. What a deep hole! What are they digging? While the team leader was thinking about this question, the entire hole began to shake violently. The team leader could hear a strange, sharp hissing sound coming from the depths of the hole. Something is coming out of this hole. This thought popped up in the team leader's mind. Then, he began to quickly retreat, wanting to leave the hole. However, it was too late. A long, snake-like creature that was 30 to 40 meters thick rushed out of the hole. Its body was at least 500 meters long, and it wriggled for more than 10 meters before completely leaving the hole. The team leader was so scared that he didn't dare to move at all. He recognized the origin of this Yuan Ko. It was called the giant platinum earthworm, a dragon-level Yuan Ko. The giant platinum earthworm was a powerful Yuan Ko in the Western magical beast camp. Although it was classified as a dragon tier, its true combat strength was at the level of a nether tier. Fortunately, the giant platinum earthworm was one of the few Yuanwis that didn't know how to attack. No matter how many times humans provoked it, it wouldn't attack them. It would only try its best to run for its life. Mud was like water to fish to them. They could move very quickly underground and easily avoid humans who couldn't even dig a hole for them. The giant platinum earthworm was a natural digger. It was able to dig a dozen or so kilometers underground. They lived in the underground cave. The number of giant platinum earthworms was very small. Humans had confirmed that there were no more than 10 giant platinum earthworms in existence. They rarely appeared in front of the world. Who would have thought that Rocky would bring them here? It seems like what Sword Immortal Baiju said is true. The purpose of these Yuan Ko occupying the Miling mountain range is to find something at the foot of the mountain. Otherwise, these Yuan Ko would not have brought the giant platinum earthworm, which has never fought with humans, here. The team leader thought silently. The team leader thought to himself. At this moment, the giant platinum earthworm's body began to tremble at a high speed. Then, soil began to fall from the sky like rain. Soon, a small hill was piled up around his body. So this giant platinum earthworm ran out to bring out the soil underground. Otherwise, it could have dug a few 100 kilometers underground in one go. There was no need for it to come out of the pit at all. Awoof! A beast let out a roar. The Yuan Ko demonic beasts beside the team leader unwillingly gathered around the hill of soil. They began to rummage through the soil that the giant platinum earthworm had brought out. Dimensional crystal ores were continuously dug out from the soil. Then, these ores were swallowed by a cloud-swallowing beast. The cloud-swallowing beast was a huge and very voracious demonic beast in the West. It was said that there was a dimensional space in its stomach. It could swallow all the humans in a city in one go and then spit them out. The team leader had heard that the cloud-swallowing beast was often used as a large transportation tool in the West. The cloud-swallowing beast could swallow things that were more than 10 times its size. It was the best transportation tool. The team leader silently lay on the ground and carefully observed the situation around him. Soon, the Yuan Ko that had swarmed up found all the dimensional crystal ores in the soil. After the cloud-swallowing beast swallowed all of the ores into its stomach, it took slow steps and began to advance deeper into the Mei Ling mountain range. The giant platinum earthworm burrowed back into the pit and began to dig again. The team leader had already roughly remembered the situation here in his heart. Then, he carefully returned to his team members along the original path. Let's go and chase this cloud-swallowing beast. I want to see where these cloud-swallowing beasts are going. Under the command of the team leader, the entire team followed behind the slow cloud-swallowing beast step by step. After really following behind the cloud-swallowing beast, the team discovered that this Yuan Ko's speed was not slow. Don't be fooled by its slow footsteps. The team had to jog to keep up with it. In a short 15 minutes, the cloud-swallowing beast arrived at its destination, a dilapidated camp ruins. This is Luoting Camp, an abandoned camp of us humans, a team member whispered. In fact, there was no need for him to speak. The rest of the team members had been in the Mei Ling mountain range for a period of time. They were very familiar with Luoting Camp. This is our territory. Seeing those damn Yuan Ko's wanton activities in the former territory of humans, several team members angrily clenched their fists. But they quickly put down their fists. They had learned to control their emotions. Let's go in. Yuan Ko, especially the magical beast Yuan Ko, did not have any sense of defense and vigilance like humans. There were no Yuan Ko guards at the entrance of the camp. The team followed the cloud-swallowing beast and directly entered the camp. Hey, team leader, look over there. After following the cloud-swallowing beast for a while, a team member suddenly raised his hand in surprise. The direction of his finger was pointing at a tall machine. This is a stone crusher. Why is it still in operation? The team leader was also surprised. He actually saw that the stone crusher left here by the humans because they did not have time to transport it away was still in operation. There was constantly white fog-like steam coming out of the chimney of the stone crusher. Pushed by the steam, the stone crusher constantly waved its hammer up and down, looking like it was working in full swing. Come on, let's go take a look. The team leader led his team to sneak near the stone crusher. This should be the stone crusher of the Heng Mountain Sword Sect. The courtyard of the Heng Mountain Sword Sect was originally built very orderly, and all kinds of defensive buildings were also available. As long as there were 20 sword bearers here, they could defend 10 times the strength of a few people. However, Yuan Ko did not care about these defensive buildings, and there was no Yuan Ko guarding the courtyard. Just like the city gate, the team easily entered the courtyard. These bastards! When they saw the situation in the courtyard, several team members could not help but curse. Even the team leader's mouth was closed, and he almost cursed too. The saber-toothed tiger Yuan Li standing around the team also heard this sound. They crawled up from the ground and constantly let out low growls. Their eyes constantly scanned the surroundings, trying to find the source of the sound. Unfortunately, they didn't see anything, so they could only pretend that their ears had malfunctioned and lay back down. The team leader did not say anything, but with tears in his eyes, he firmly held his brother's hands and used his own strength to comfort them. So what was it that made the usually calm team leader unable to control his emotions? Because the person in charge of this machine was not Yuan Ko, but a group of humans in disheveled clothes. No one knew where these humans were captured by Yuan Ko. They had no clothes on them, and they stood naked in front of the stone crusher. Their bodies were full of bloody scratches from wild beasts. Because their hands were exposed to the high temperature of the stone crusher without protection, they had already become charred black, and yellow body fluid constantly leaked out of the wounds. Yuan Ko usually killed humans they met, and rarely kept captives. If they did, they would strip off all the clothes of the captives, because they seemed to know that not wearing clothes was the greatest humiliation to humans, and they enjoyed humiliating humans. These human captives all had stiff expressions, and there was no spirit in their eyes. They had already lost their yearning for life, and all that was left was the instinct of a machine. Suddenly, a human captive staggered and fell to the ground, probably due to excessive blood loss and lack of physical strength. He struggled, but could not get up no matter what. "Awoo!" The two saber-toothed tigers seemed to be waiting for this moment. They immediately pounced forward, biting one of the human's legs and stomach respectively. Then, they bit down with their upper and lower jaws, forcibly tearing out a large piece of bloody flesh from the human's body. They chewed randomly and directly swallowed it into their stomach. They looked very satisfied, as if it was a rare and delicious snack. The saber-toothed tiger's actions were a signal. The other beasts around Yuan Ko immediately swarmed forward, and dragged out all the intestines, heart, and livers from the wailing human's stomach. In less than a minute, a few magical beasts Yuan Ko had eaten a human alive into their stomachs, leaving only a head with its eyes wide open, staring blankly into the distance, which happened to be where the scout team was hiding. Chapter 477. I'm going to kill these beasts. One of the scouts could not accept the fact that his compatriots were being eaten by Yuan Ko in front of him. In his excitement, he wanted to rush up and kill these Yuan Ko. These saber-toothed tigers looked very powerful, but they were only tiger-class Yuan Ko. It was not a problem for a sword wielder to deal with them. "Stop! Are you trying to get us killed?" The captain grabbed his teammate's hand, which was about to draw his sword. "Keep your body useful. We will take revenge with our own hands in the future." The team member froze in the position of drawing his sword for a long time. In the end, he put his sword back and turned around. He did not want to see this human tragedy. He could escape, but the captain could not. Although he was also very sad, the captain still stared at what was happening in front of him. He saw the cloud-swallowing beast come to the field and spit out a small mountain of dimensional crystal ores. Under the drive of the other Yuan Ko, the human captives could only put the dimensional crystal ores into the shredder and take out the dimensional crystals inside. All of this seemed easy to explain. Yuan Ko had enslaved humans to mine the dimensional crystal ores and obtain the dimensional crystals inside. But in fact, the Yuan Ko just looked at the dimensional crystals that were broken out of the shredder and threw them on the ground. Even if there was a marquise among them, the Yuan Ko would throw them away like they were old shoes. This was not surprising. According to human intelligence, the dimensional crystals were completely useless to Yuan Ko. They could not absorb the sword essence in the dimensional crystals, so naturally, they could not use the power contained in them. It was also because of this that the captain felt a little strange. He didn't know why these Yuan silhouettes were mining these dimensional crystals. Gu Wudao did not tell the scouting team the truth, so the team naturally did not know that Yuan Ko had used the creation god's personality to destroy Yuzhang City in order to find the king species dimensional crystal in the Miling Mountain range. Zhu Wudao didn't dare to make this news public. Otherwise, the entire Yuzhang City would be in chaos if word of this got out. Casually speaking, the dimensional crystals mined from the back of the crusher had already formed a 2-meter-tall mound. There were about 1 million dimensional crystals, which was a huge fortune in the human world. It would not be a problem to exchange for tens of millions of hero coins. This was a huge fortune for any sword wielder. Brothers, these dimensional crystals originally belonged to us humans. Everyone, go and use some so that it can be passed on to your descendants in the future. Even these heroes who walked on a tightrope for the future of mankind couldn't help but be tempted when they saw this wealth. Under the leader's lead, they each took some of the dimensional crystals from the pile. However, the leader was not blinded by greed. He was afraid that if the number of crystals decreased too much, it would arouse Yuan Ko's suspicion, so he forcefully restrained the scouts from taking a portion of the dimensional crystals without arousing Yuan Ko's suspicion. Indeed, Yuan Ko did not notice this, but a human did. His murky eyes moved, and his mouth opened slightly as if he wanted to say something. However, when he saw that the surroundings were filled with demonic beasts, he closed his mouth. Let's go. We still have a lot of places to explore. During that time, 2 or 3 humans lost their value due to exhaustion and were eaten as snacks by the saber-toothed tigers. The scouting party felt that if they stayed any longer, everyone would go crazy. Therefore, they quickly recorded the situation of the stone-crushing machine. After that, the captain led his party and planned to leave the campsite where Yuan Zhong gathered. However, when they approached the gate of the camp, they suddenly found that 2 more cloud-swallowing beasts appeared at the city gate one after another. They came from the opposite direction of the cloud-swallowing beast that they had followed before. Didn't this mean that Yuan Ko was not only mining that 1 mineral vein, but they were mining at least 3 mineral veins at the same time? Why? Since these Yuan Ko are disdainful of the dimensional crystals, why are they mining these ores at 3 places at the same time? The leader couldn't understand the reason behind this no matter what. After busying themselves for a whole day, the sky had already darkened. The scouting team followed the moving cloud devourers and found a total of 6 mining locations. Under the operation of these Yuan silks, the efficiency of the entire May Mountain mine was actually much higher than when it was under the control of humans. According to the statistics of this scouting team, around 100,000 tons of ores were mined every day, which was 10 times the efficiency of the humans mining. The Yuan Huans seemed to occupy the entire Meiling mountain range in order to mine these ores and then use them to crush them with the stone crusher. Apart from this, the Yuan Huans didn't do anything else in the Meiling mountain range. It was as if their main purpose was to obtain these dimensional crystal ores, but they were so disdainful of the dimensional crystals contained in the ores. Leader, we have figured out the situation of the entire Meiling mountain range. We can go back, a team member suggested. The leader nodded. Indeed, the situation had been figured out, and it was time to go. Okay, let's retreat. Since this time it was so smooth, and Yuan Ko didn't discover our traces, then there's no need to trouble the chairman to tear through the void to save us. All of us will carefully return along the original path and complete this mission perfectly. Yes. Yes. All the team members let out a sigh of relief when they heard their captain's words. There was nothing better than being able to complete the mission perfectly. However, accidents often happened when people relax. When this reconnaissance team was about to leave, they suddenly saw a group of soldiers in bright armor escorting a group of humans towards the direction of Luo Ting's camp. Leader, they are. A team member gritted his teeth, but he couldn't finish the second half of the sentence. Yes, these compatriots should be going to the stone crusher to be slaves. The leader was indifferent at this time. He didn't have the ability to save these compatriots, and he didn't have the right to exchange the lives of his team members for the survival of these humans. Even if he had to sacrifice himself, he had to save others? That was bullsh*t. Leader, that person seems to be. Just as the leader was about to order his team members to leave, someone stretched out his hand and pointed at one of the bound humans, stuttering. Seems to be what? Do you know him? The leader was straightforward. I know him, there's no mistake. He is the Eagle Cat Sword Spirit. The team member finally finished his sentence. I once went on a mission with the Eagle Cat Sword Spirit. I can't be wrong. He is the Sword Spirit of our Yuzhang city, the Eagle Cat Sword Spirit. Unexpectedly, the Eagle Cat Sword Spirit who had led Gohan to Changyang Mountain had appeared here as a captive. No one knew what kind of pain he had gone through to become like this. Eagle Cat Sword Spirit. Eagle Cat Sword Spirit. The leader kept repeating this name. He was in a dilemma. He didn't know if he should act and save the Eagle Cat Sword Spirit. If it was an ordinary human, Even if it was a sword holder below the famed sword level, the leader wouldn't be in such a dilemma. He knew how to weigh the pros and cons. These people didn't know that their scouting team was in danger. However, the one that needed to be saved now was the Eagle Cat Sword Spirit. A spirit sword level power, even if it cost the lives of the entire scouting team, would still be a worthwhile trade. The prerequisite was that he could bring the Eagle Cat Sword Spirit back to a safe place. Leader, should we save him? Hearing that this person was actually a spirit sword level sword holder, all the team members began to hesitate. They also understood that a spirit sword level sword holder was much more precious than themselves. Leader, let's go save the Eagle Cat Sword Spirit. We have a chance. A team member took the initiative to suggest. Yes, leader, there aren't many Yuan-ko around here. If we can eliminate the Yuan-ko that is being escorted in a short period of time, and then ask Mr. President to tear open the void and pull us back, we will be safe. Leader, the success rate of this plan is still very high. Please give the order. Leader, our lives are nothing. If the Eagle Cat Sword Spirit can be safe, even if we all die, it will be worth it. The team members all expressed their opinions. Unexpectedly, all of them chose to give up on returning home safely. They chose to save the Eagle Cat Sword Spirit even if it meant sacrificing their own lives. The whole team's hope was instantly placed on the leader. He hesitated for a while, but finally clenched his teeth. All right, then I'll listen to everyone. Save the Eagle Cat Sword Spirit. Yes. Yes. All the team members said in unison. They all rubbed their palms together, ready to take action. However, the leader changed the topic and pulled one of the team members out. Wang Ba, don't join the rescue mission. Why? Wang Ba was stunned. Leader, are you looking down on me, Wang Ba? No, I won't look down on my brother. The leader patted Wang Ba's shoulder. Listen, we don't know if the rescue of the Eagle Cat Sword Spirit will be successful. That's why I have to send someone to act alone. He has to pass the information on the Mei Ling mountain range to the president. That person is you, Wang Ba. Go back the way you came and don't care about anything else. Go straight back to Yuzhong City and pass the information to the president. Do you understand? Why me? Wang Ba panted. Leader, let the other brothers go. I want to be with everyone. I don't want to act alone. Why you? The leader tapped on Wang Ba's personal terminal. Your grandmother has already lost 3 sons and 4 grandsons. You are her last hope. For your grandmother, you can't die. Get lost. You must return to Yuzhong City. Otherwise, we will never forgive you, dead or alive. The captain kicked Wang Ba's butt. Wang Ba endured the kick and slapped himself in the face. Then, he gave the captain a 90-degree bow and ran down the mountain as fast as he could. That kid got lucky. The leader looked in the direction of Yuzhong City. He was also his mother's last son. Chapter 478. Lord Eagle Cat, we are from Yuzhong City's investigation team. We will kill these Yuan-ko escorts later. Please cooperate with us. The scout captain walked to the side of the naked Eagle Cat Sword Spirit in the crowd and whispered into his ear. The Eagle Cat's expression did not change. It still had a dull and hopeless expression, as if it did not hear what the leader of the investigation team said. If the leader did not notice the Eagle Cat's eyelids suddenly blinking 3 times, he would have thought that the Eagle Cat's hearing had been destroyed by these Yuan-ko. The leader understood and began to arrange for his team members to prepare to rescue the Eagle Cat. The team escorting the Eagle Cat was made up of 12 Yuan-ko. 10 of them were ancient Greek Templars, while the other 2 were ancient Greek Templars. The Templars were Ghost Yuan-ko, while the Templars were Soul Yuan-ko. They were all at the same level as the sword wielders of the investigation team. Logically speaking, it shouldn't be too difficult for a team of 7 sword-bearers to defeat 12 Yuan Shun of the same level. However, the problem was that the sky-piercing swords were known for their stealth and jumping abilities. Their fighting abilities were very weak, and they were no match for Yuan Ko of the same level. Moreover, there were still other Yuan Ko wandering around. Once the battle started, these Yuan Ko would definitely swarm in. By then, the sky-piercing swords would not only have to face 12 Yuan Ko, but hundreds or even thousands of Yuan Ko. They would definitely die a horrible death. Therefore, after careful consideration, the team leader decided to focus his forces and kill the 2 Templar warriors guarding the Eagle Cat Sword Spirit. Once the Eagle Cat Sword Spirit was rescued, he would immediately summon the power of Sword Immortal by Stallion to rescue them from the void. And so, the 2 Greek Templars who were standing beside the Eagle Cat Blade Spirit welcomed the last moments of their lives. In the blink of an eye, 6 to 7 sword maidens appeared in front of them and stabbed their swords into the gaps of their armor. After the first round of ambush, the 2 Greek Templars' eyes bulged out and angrily pulled out their greatswords to retaliate against their opponents. After a series of clashes, the 2 Greek Templars died and the dimensional vortex appeared. From this, it could be seen how weak the sky-piercing sword ladies were. Under normal circumstances, when faced with a surprise attack from 3 or 4 sword ladies of the same level, a mere Ghost Realm Yuan Ko would definitely die on the spot. But in reality, they only managed to hold on for a few seconds. It was only when the Sword Maiden's second round of attacks that they managed to kill the 2 Templars. It was clear that the Sword Maiden's attack power was insufficient. Hurry up and release the binding of the Eagle Cat Sword Spirit. After the Sword Maidens, the other Sword Maidens also jumped out and rushed to the Eagle Cat Sword Spirit's side, trying to break the binding on the Eagle Cat Sword Spirit. The Eagle Cat Sword Spirit was bound by a long iron chain. It even had the symbol of Yuzhong City on it. It seemed that these were the materials that Yuan Ko had found from the abandoned items in the Mei Ling mountain range. These seemed to be the encirclement chains of the camp, made to defend against Yuan Kos. They were mixed with some dimensional crystal stone powder, making them stronger than normal chains. Who would have thought that these things that were originally used to defend against Yuan Ko's attacks would end up being used by Yuan Ko to bind the humans? Sir, save us! Sir, save us! Sir, we are all from the Yuyang Fortress, please save us! Please save us! Seeing the sudden appearance of the human sword maidens, the humans who were bound by the Eagle Cat Sword Spirit started to plead with them. Captain, you see. One of the team members couldn't bear to see his own compatriots pleading with him. Save as many as you can. The captain glared at his team member. The rest of the Templars are already here. Organize a defense. After 2 of the Templars were killed, the rest of the Templars immediately rushed over. The Sword Maidens of the scouting team immediately went up to block the Templars' attack. However, as the rest of the Templars joined the battle, the pressure that the Sword Maidens had to face also increased, and they were gradually suppressed. How is it, can you break this chain? The captain asked anxiously. Unexpectedly, when they were trying to break the binding of the Eagle Cat Sword Spirit, they encountered a huge problem. These chains, which they usually didn't care about, had become a difficult problem to deal with. They couldn't break it at all. At this time, the Saber-grade Sword Maidens were defending against the Templar warriors. They could only use their ancient Saber-grade Sword Maidens to try and break the chains. However, the quality of the chains was too good. The ancient Saber-grade Sword Maidens were made of the same material as the chains. So, when the ancient Saber-grade Sword Maidens slashed at the chains, they only created sparks and scratches. There was no other effect. At this time, the captain's heart suddenly surged with hatred for the iron chain manufacturer. Can't you learn from other companies and embezzle a little bit of the dimensional crystals mixed in to make some fake and inferior products? Why did they have to make the quality so good? Captain, are you done yet? Our sword maidens can't hold on for much longer, a team member said anxiously. When the remaining 8 Templars and 2 Templars gathered together to attack the 7 tiny sky-piercing swords, the situation instantly became precarious. Under the attack of the Yuan Yen, the sword ladies kept retreating. They were about to retreat to the side of the sky-piercing swords and were completely surrounded by the sword ladies. Damn it, this chain can't be broken at all. The captain madly slashed at the chains. Although he could see a small gap under his brute force, it was only a small gap. If he wanted to break the chains, it would probably take at least an hour. But the problem was, where did this team get an hour? They probably didn't even have 3 minutes. Somewhere further away, the rest of the Yuan-Kos were already rushing over. At that time, the team would have to face a tidal wave of attacks from Yuan-Kos. They would probably be torn to pieces by Yuan-Ko in an instant. No, we can't delay any longer. You cut the chains, I'll send a message to the chairman. I hope that the chairman can save the Eagle Cat Sword Spirit. The team leader loosened the chains in his hands and took out a small, square-shaped stone from his dimensional pocket. He closed his eyes and immersed his consciousness into the stone. This stone was a void stone that Sword Immortal Bicolo had specially created. It could send his consciousness into the void and communicate with another void stone that was compatible with it. Chairman, are you there? Chairman. The captain frantically poured his consciousness into the void stone. I'm here. What made the captain happy was that he quickly received a response from Sword Immortal Baiju. Sky-piercing sword team, how's your current situation? Zhu Wudao asked. Chairman, the investigation mission has been completed. However, we're now surrounded by Yuan-Kos. We hope that the chairman can save us. The captain quickly said. Alright, I understand. You guys must hold on for 1 more minute. I need time to cut open the void. Jiandi could cut open the void anywhere he wanted. However, Sword Immortals could not. Depending on the distance, he needed a certain amount of time to cut open the void nearby. Yes. The captain cut off communication with Zhu Wudao and shouted to his teammates, Comrades, sword ladies, let's hold on for 1 more minute. After 1 minute, the chairman will come to save us. Humans were not afraid of despair, but they were afraid of not seeing a sliver of hope. When they heard that they could survive as long as they held on for 1 more minute, everyone erupted with a huge amount of strength and forcefully commanded their sword ladies to resist the attacks of the Templar warriors. There were no accidents or delays. A minute later, a void door opened at the location of the void stone. As long as the team passed through this door, they would be able to return to Zhu Wudao's side successfully and escape this disaster. It was not a problem for the members of the team to escape, but what about the Eagle Cat Sword Spirit? At that moment, the chains on the Eagle Cat Sword Spirit's hands were still firm. There were no signs of them being cut. Captain, what should we do? The team member in charge of cutting the chains asked anxiously. Humans had to put everything on their bodies into the void gate. Only then could they leave through the void gate. The chains bound the Eagle Cat Sword Spirit's hands and extended for hundreds of meters. Either the Eagle Cat Sword Spirit cut the chains, or it would have to bring all the chains and the humans bound to it to enter the void gate. However, both options seemed to be impossible at this moment, so the captain made a prompt decision to make the best choice. Forget it. If we can't cut the chains, we'll retreat, the captain said without hesitation. He then turned his head to look at the Eagle Cat Sword Spirit and cupped his fist. I'm sorry, Sir Eagle Cat. We're useless and can't save you. It's fine if I'm alone, but I can't let my brothers die here. Please forgive us, sir. After saying this, the captain began to order his team members to retreat through the void door in an orderly manner. They had thought that they could still save the Eagle Cat Sword Spirit's life. They did not expect that they would end up being cut by a high-quality chain. This was something that they had never expected. Give it to me. Suddenly, the Eagle Cat Sword Spirit, who had been weak and silent all this time, finally spoke. Comrade, give me the sword in your hand. My sword? The swordsman beside the Eagle Cat Sword Spirit was stunned. Give it to him. The captain seemed to understand something and immediately said, Here you go, sir. The Eagle Cat Sword Spirit took the ancient sword Maiden's body from the swordsman and took a deep breath. He then waved his sword and slashed at the chains twice. The chains that had caused the void-piercing sword team so much trouble were instantly cut. These 2 slashes seemed to have used up all of the Eagle Cat sword spirit's strength. He collapsed onto the swordsman beside him. Chapter 479. The sword Maiden was just an ordinary sword in the hands of a wielder who wasn't its master. But this sword didn't stop the wielder from using his own power. The Eagle Cat sword spirit was, after all, a spirit sword level sword wielder. His sword essence was as high as hundreds of thousands of quarks. Even if it was an ordinary iron in his hands, he could still cut through copper and iron, let alone a man-made ancient sword lady. However, the Eagle Cat sword spirit had suffered a lot and was already an arrow at the end of its flight. Cutting the iron chain was the last of its strength, so it collapsed on top of them. Quickly helped the Eagle Cat sword spirit into the void gate. Seeing that the Eagle Cat sword spirit was tired, the captain quickly ordered his team members to help the Eagle Cat sword spirit into the void gate. Then, his team members covered each other as they entered the void gate one by one. But the captain did not expect that this action would cause a commotion. "Sir, don't forget us." The other captives panicked when they saw the Eagle Cat sword spirit enter. Could it be that these sword bearers were not going to save them? Could it be that they were going to stay here and wait for death? "Sir, my family is rich, millions of RMB. Sir, please save me." A fat man quickly said, "Sir, I have a daughter. She's as beautiful as a flower, Yuzhang's #1 beauty. Sir, please save me. I'll let my daughter be your personal maid." Another man said, looking at his ugly face, who knew what his daughter looked like. "Sir, I have twin daughters. I'll give both of them to you. Sir, please take me with you." This was a woman. She was so skinny that she looked like she was only skin and bones. It was as if there were 2 dry bags hanging in front of her chest. Countless captives begged, wanting to use their most precious things in exchange for a chance to leave this place. The captain swore to the heavens that even if there was a 1/10 of a chance, he would think of a way to save these people. But now, he was really powerless. "Let's go." The captain closed his eyes and jumped into the void gate. He did not dare to look at the captives. He was afraid that he would not be able to harden his heart. When Yuan Ko and the others saw that all the human sword-bearers had entered the void gate, they immediately stopped in place and did not move forward. The void gate was equivalent to the absolute territory of the Creator. Once they stepped into the void gate, they would most likely be immediately killed by the Creator. "Pah!" The captain slapped himself hard in the face and shouted, "Chairman, we're all here. Close the door." Inside the void gate there was no need to use void stones. As long as one spoke loudly, the person who opened the void gate would be able to hear them. "Let's go in together. We've already been abandoned once in Yeyang City. This time, we have to rely on ourselves to fight for our lives." A captive yelled, dragging the chains on his body, wanting to climb into the void. "That's right. Why can they live while we have to die? Let's charge in together and live together." With someone taking the lead, driven by their desire to live, the captives all wanted to crawl into the void gate. On the other hand, the Yuan Ko turned a deaf ear to this. They did not attack the captives who wanted to escape. Instead, they watched as the captives struggled as if they were watching a show. It seemed like there was a high-level and high-intelligence Yuan Ko nearby. He knew very well what it meant for these captives with chains to enter the void gate. As mentioned before, the void gate could only take away individuals who were absolutely independent. If there were chains left outside the void gate, then the void gate would not be able to take away the humans inside. If it dragged on for too long, the power of the sword immortal would be exhausted or destroyed by the universe-level Yuan Ko. Then, the humans inside the gate would return to their original position. "Captain, what should we do? Should we save them?" Within the void gate, a team member said hesitantly. Right now, there were already people who had crawled into the void gate. As long as they cut off the chains on their bodies, they would be able to save this human's life. Right now, there were only two options in front of the captain. One was to find a way to cut off the chains on these people who had crawled in, and the other was to push them out. The first option was undoubtedly the one that the captain wanted to make the most. However, when he looked at the eagle-cat sword spirit, it had already fainted. Obviously, he could not count on the eagle-cat sword spirit's power to cut off the chains. What else do you guys have left outside? I can already feel the power of the universe level Yuan Ko. He's rushing over here. He's about to forcefully destroy my void gate. Hurry and throw that thing out. Sword Immortal Baystock's voice sounded from the void gate. The universe-level Yuanwis were rushing over. Once the universe-level Yuanwis stayed here, they could easily destroy this void gate since they also had control over the power of the void. Time didn't allow the team leader to delay any longer. Everyone, follow me. Push these people out or else no one will live. After the captain finished speaking, he was the first to rush up. He grabbed the clothes of a person who had crawled in and threw him out. But, Captain, what's the difference between us and killing people? A team member couldn't bear to see these humans being pushed out and couldn't help but say, either we live or we die together. If you don't have the heart to do it, then jump out yourself. I won't stop you. The captain roared angrily, and this team member, who was acting like a saint, immediately swallowed his words. What are you all standing here for? Do you all want to die in the hands of Yuan Ko? Push them out. The captain ordered again. Only then did all the team members come to a sudden realization. They all rushed up and pushed these humans, who had spent so much effort to crawl out, back into the endless abyss outside. I curse you! You bastard! You will die a horrible death! No. Push me down. Save me. I won't let you go. I'll haunt you even if I die. Bastard, Motherf *cur, you scum with a human's face but a beast's heart. Sooner or later, you will all die without a burial place. These people who were pushed out let out the most vicious curse in their lives. They had finally seen the hope of survival, but they had returned to the abyss of death. They couldn't help but curse angrily. This was human nature. I'm sorry. Your curse, Songsher, will take it. If you have the ability, you can come and find me for revenge. I'll return my life to you. Songsher, who was also the captain of the reconnaissance team, said in his heart as he threw the last captive out. At the same time, the void gate quickly closed. With a flash of light, the entire Mei Ling mountain returned to its tranquility. Don't these humans flaunt their honor and morality? Why would they leave their own kind in the lurch? This is too interesting. On a mountain peak opposite the void gate, two people were watching everything that happened with great interest. One of them was a handsome man who looked like a deity from the heavens. He was a deity in the first place. And the other was his daughter, a woman whose left half of her face was as beautiful as the moon in the lake, and the right half of her face was rotten and hideous, with vicious maggots crawling all over it. This handsome man was the Western evil god Loki, who planned and launched the whole attack. Next to him was his daughter, the god of death, Hela. If humans really have these things, why would they keep talking about them and keep mentioning them? Loki's eyes were full of wisdom, as if he had seen through everything. Humans have always been the most hypocritical creatures. This is also something we can use. My dear daughter, Hela, let your subordinates go to the group of captives just now. After experiencing the good show just now, among these stubborn captives, there must be some who are willing to work for us. Identify them and give them a little better treatment than the other captives, Loki said with a smile. There's no need to trouble, father. As long as my little babies scare them and fill their stomachs with a few people, they will work for us. Hela said with disdain. No, my dear daughter. Subordinates like this are not people who are willing to be dogs for you. What we need are dogs who are willing to serve us. Those that are thrown out by humans are such dogs. Do you understand? Loki patted Hela's hair that was as dry as rotten snakeskin. As you wish, my father. Hela nodded and arranged for her subordinates to do these things. But father, are you just going to let these human sword-bearers go? You could have kept them here. Hela continued to ask. Why should I keep them? Loki's face was full of smiles. They are the pawns of my next plan. I can't wait for them to leave here safely. But they saved the sword-bearer that I spent so much effort to catch, Hela said. At the same time, the smile on the beautiful left side of her face became even brighter. Whenever Hela was angry, the beautiful half of her face would give the brightest smile. When she was happy, the rotten half of her face would become even uglier. The sword-bearer that you caught is already dead. Loki touched the rotten half of his daughter's face and kissed it without feeling disgusted. My dear daughter, I have already let Abdul control that human. He is the most important rat *T that I have embedded in the human race. I don't want to hear that stupid woman's name, my dear father. When we are together, can you tell other women to go away? Hela said with some intoxication. Of course, as you wish, my dear daughter. Tonight, father will accompany you well. You will not be lonely any more. Loki held his daughter's hand and slowly disappeared above the mountains. Chapter 480. It's the 11th lightning bolt. Gohan's arms began to tremble uncontrollably as he looked at the endless horde of zombies surrounding the rain-flower terrace. He had been fighting to protect Misaka Mikoto for 4 whole hours. In those 4 hours, Gohan did not move from his current position even once. He kept slashing and slashing repeatedly. Even though Gohan's physical strength had been strengthened by 2 sword maidens and Gohan still had more than 1,000 quarks of sword essence in his body was still on the verge of collapsing. Gohan was not like Etion. She had Duyu to take turns with her and had time to rest. On the other hand, Gohan had no choice but to continue fighting on his own. At this moment, his wrists felt as if they were filled with lead that weighed tens of kilograms. Every time he lifted his wrists, it was a huge torture. If you don't understand what kind of pain this is, then try to lift your textbook flat. You can't put the book down in the middle. It doesn't have to be very heavy, just a language textbook will do. You guys don't have to lift them for 4 hours either. 20 minutes is enough. That way, you guys can roughly understand how much torture Gohan was in. However, even though he was in such pain, Gohan did not slow down his killing speed. That was because he knew that he could not collapse. If he did, all his hard work over the past few days would come to an end. At one point, Gohan thought that he did not have to guard Misaka Mikoto for such a long time. The 1st to the 10th lightning bolt entered Misaka Mikoto's body was less than an hour apart. However, for the 11th lightning bolt, Gohan had to wait for more than 3 hours. During those 3 hours, although there were lightning bolts falling from the sky, they were very far away from the rain-flower terrace. No matter what, they did not land near the rain-flower terrace. Helplessly, Gohan could only fight for 4 hours before the 11th lightning bolt landed. However, as the 11th lightning bolt landed, Gohan noticed that the energy field that enveloped the entire rain-flower terrace had completely shattered. Just now, he saw with his naked eye that the entire space had instantly become like a shattered glass, densely packed with cracks. It was a very bad thing because when the energy field completely shattered, the entire ground began to tremble. Gohan saw a building in the distance suddenly explode as if something had burst it. Amidst the dust and ashes of the building, an octopus-like monster gradually revealed itself. The giant octopus monster was at least 200 meters tall and 200 meters wide. It had 8 tentacles around it. Although Gohan did not know how long the tentacles were, he was certain that it was very easy for the octopus monster to attack Gohan with its tentacles. At the same time, the body of the giant octopus was also densely packed with hundreds of small volcanic craters. From these volcanic craters, ordinary zombies were continuously climbing out. In the center of the giant octopus was the largest volcanic crater. From this volcanic crater, the zombies that were crawling out were huge excavators. Seeing this scene and the giant octopus, Gohan's heart couldn't help but think of a word: zombie mother. So all the zombies here were created by this giant octopus. It's like the queen bee of a beehive. Could it be that it can control the movements of the entire zombie group? Gohan muttered to himself. He finally figured out the origin of these zombies and the master behind them. But this was not good news, because Gohan could not think of any way to deal with this powerful giant octopus zombie mother. Judging from the power of this giant octopus, it was at least a nether level Yuan Ko that was equivalent to an ordinary spirit sword level swordsman. It was even very likely that it was second only to an immortal sword level swordsman, equivalent to a top spirit sword level swordsman. Such a Yuan Ko was definitely an existence that Gohan could not deal with. Gohan could only pray that this giant octopus was not interested in dealing with him, but this was obviously impossible. The first thing this giant octopus did after appearing was to stretch its tentacles, and then extended one of them in front of Gohan. Stop! Gohan heard a buzzing sound that seemed to be talking inside a jar. The tone of the voice was strange, and he couldn't even tell whether it was male or female. But it was obvious that this voice should be the voice of this giant octopus, because after the word "stop," those ordinary zombies that were still attacking stopped and did not take another step forward. Gohan finally had a chance to rest. Unfortunately, Gohan did not dare to rest. He still maintained a state of high vigilance, staring at the tentacle in front of him. No one knew if this tentacle would suddenly attack him. Human, my zombies have never had any conflicts with you humans, and they have never left this small area. Why did you break into my territory and kill my descendants? The giant octopus or zombie mother said in a buzzing voice. It sounded like it was an innocent mother. You're wrong. The one who has always wanted to have a conflict is you. We are just here to replenish some thunder and lightning and defend here. Have you ever seen us take the initiative to attack your zombies? Although Gohan's tone was a bit cold, he still explained the situation. He also emphasized that he was only defending and had no intention of attacking the zombies. From a certain point of view, Gohan had already admitted that he was afraid. If it was me, I would also be afraid. Facing a meteor stage Yuan Ko, being afraid is the smartest thing to do. Those who didn't fear would have already become a pile of bones, or maybe not even a bone would be left. How can I allow others to sleep beside my bed? You want to break into my territory, so naturally you have to face my attacks. The giant octopus's words were very calm, and every word was spoken at the same time. It sounded like the voice of an automatic reading software. Moreover, its words did not contain any emotions. Even if you just looked at it, you could feel the emotions in it, but when Gohan heard it, he could not feel a trace of it. Get out of here! Suddenly, the giant octopus's words changed, and then the entire zombie horde was in an uproar. With Gohan as the center, a 1-meter-wide path actually opened up. Looking at it with the naked eye, this path extended to the end of the zombie horde. As long as they passed through this path, Gohan and the others could keep moving forward until they were out of the zombie horde's territory. Leave here. The giant octopus repeated. I will let you live, leave here immediately. What you said is true. Gohan smiled. If we were halfway through and you came to kill us, wouldn't we be dead? I never lie. The giant octopus still maintained its calm tone. Human, you have to understand a truth. Only corpses will not lie to you. This giant octopus's words were very reasonable, and Gohan actually had no way to refute it. To be honest, Gohan had a vague feeling that this giant octopus was just like what he said. He wouldn't lie. If they did this, they might really be able to leave Nanjing unscathed. Unfortunately, Gohan's goal was still one step away. Gohan could not leave here immediately, but Gohan also did not want to have another conflict with this giant octopus. Okay, I believe you. Gohan nodded and tried to say, but we still have something to do. If we finish this, we will immediately leave here, and will not stay. No, you must immediately leave here, or you will refuse my friendship. Was this giant octopus's friendship valuable? Anyway, Gohan could not see how valuable it was. If you refuse, then refuse. Gohan smiled coldly. I never thought that a corpse would have any friendship. You will pay a price for your recklessness, stupid human. You can go to hell. It seemed that the giant octopus's calm way of speaking finally attracted the emotional fluctuations of a representative point. After Gohan's words, the original negotiation was completely announced to be broken. After the negotiation was broken, the previously restored zombies once again launched an attack on Gohan. At the same time, the giant octopus's tentacle also joined in the siege. The giant octopus's tentacle was far above Gohan in terms of strength, speed, and other attributes. Gohan was only hit by the tentacle, and he flew more than 10 meters away. Xiaoyun, I will leave this to you. I will deal with this tentacle. Gohan climbed up from the ground, and gave the task of resisting the ordinary Yuan Ko to Gu Yun. He himself was determined to face this tentacle. Human, give up resistance and leave here. The giant octopus was still buzzing. As soon as my friend recovers, we will leave immediately. Gohan replied. Then die. The giant octopus did not speak anymore because its tentacle had given its answer. The train-like tentacle attacked again. This time, its target was not Gohan, but Misaka Mikoto, who was sitting in the middle waiting for the 12th lightning strike. Don't even think about it. Gohan stood in front of Misaka Mikoto with the poor sword in his hand. He blocked the giant octopus's tentacles with his sword of spring technique. With his strength alone, he was able to block a moving train. Human. Despicable, the giant octopus retracted its tentacle. Of course, it did not give up. It was gathering its strength again, like a spring that had been compressed to its limit. It would then explode in an instant, wanting to destroy the entire high platform. Gohan understood the giant octopus's plan the moment it retracted its tentacle. He could not allow the spring to be compressed. Therefore, he stabbed the Chinpin sword into the giant octopus's tentacle, and his entire body was pulled back to the side of the giant octopus. Chapter 481. When the big octopus retracted its tentacles, it felt that there was a person on top of it. The big octopus was very disdainful. In its mind, it only needed to quickly swing its tentacles to throw this damned human off. As a result, we saw a very interesting scene. The big octopus tentacles began to spin like a Ferris wheel. The spinning tentacles resembled a flying saucer, giving off a sense of déjà vu of a man on a horse. Unfortunately, the big octopus miscalculated. Qingpin's sword was firmly inserted into the flesh of the tentacle, while Gohan tightly held onto the hilt of Qingpin's sword, never loosening his grip. Even though his whole body was thrown off, he still didn't leave the big octopus's tentacle. The big octopus saw that it couldn't get rid of this damned human no matter how hard it tried. It suddenly became unhappy. It had used all of its strength. Why hadn't this human rolled off? The big octopus probably regarded this behavior as a provocation, and in response to this provocation, the big octopus felt that what it should do was to throw the human off. The result of this was that the big octopus's tentacles spun even more happily, and it didn't show any signs of stopping. This rotation lasted for more than 40 minutes. The big octopus felt extremely bored, and its tentacles were sore, but Gohan was still on top of it. The big octopus didn't know that this kind of rotation was a piece of cake for Gohan. For a master swordsman, borrowing the enemy's strength was a very basic skill. To put it simply, some things would become a habit after a long time. Perhaps at the beginning, this was a dangerous situation for Gohan, but after a few minutes, Gohan had completely adapted to this state of high rotation. His body didn't feel any discomfort. He could even close his eyes and take a short nap to relieve the fatigue from fighting the zombies. In short, Gohan hoped that the big octopus would continue to spin. It would be best if it could spin until the 12th lightning struck down. Unfortunately, the big octopus wasn't so cooperative. After more than 40 minutes, the big octopus finally realized how stupid this behavior was, and then decisively stopped. Ah, happy time is over. When the tentacles stopped moving, Gohan let out a sigh of regret. But thanks to the 40 minutes of spinning, Gohan's exhausted body was able to get some rest. At the very least, his arms were no longer as heavy as 1,000 kilograms when he tried to lift them. Soon, the big octopus's second wave of attack came, this time from the other 7 tentacles of the big octopus. These tentacles were either whipping, pushing, or pushing, trying to drive Gohan down from the tentacles. As long as Gohan went down, the tide of zombies below would be able to teach Gohan a lesson. Unfortunately, although these tentacles were numerous and powerful, they couldn't touch Gohan at all. All of them were easily dodged by Gohan. He was like a sticky candy, tightly glued to the tentacles of the big octopus, and couldn't be beaten down no matter what. And in this quite a long period of entanglement, Gohan also discovered that this big octopus was actually a Yuan-ko that was strong in the middle but weak in the outside. Generally, people would say that others were strong in the outside but weak in the inside, which meant that they were strong on the outside but weak in the inside. But this big octopus Yuan-ko was indeed strong in the middle but weak in the outside. Its own strength was very strong, and its foundation was also excellent, but it simply didn't know any fighting methods, only relying on its own instincts to fight. Take its current attack on Gohan, for example. If Gohan controlled its 7 tentacles that were longer and thicker than a train, he would be beaten down in minutes. But this Yuan-ko completely relied on its own instincts to control it. Wherever Gohan was, it would attack there, without even the simplest prediction. It had to be said that this kind of enemy was really a bit too cute. And this big octopus's IQ was a bit low. In fact, it didn't need to fight with him like this at all. As long as it slightly changed its mind, then Gohan would be completely forced into a desperate situation, and could only accept the outcome of defeat. It clearly had such a huge body, but it didn't know how to use it. It clearly had such a big head, but its IQ was almost 0. This was like guarding a large pile of gold, silver, and jewelry in a boundless desert. It was really a pity. But considering that he was a Yuan-ko, this kind of pity was nothing to feel sorry about. This kind of somewhat boring battle continued until Gohan raised his head and looked at the sky. Inexplicably, he started to feel anxious. This was because Gohan noticed that the dark clouds in the sky were gradually dispersing. Seeing this, Gohan instantly lost his cool. The dark clouds were dispersing, which meant that the lightning was about to end. However, the 12th lightning bolt that Misaka Mikoto needed had yet to land beside the Rainflower Terrace. Once the dark clouds completely disappeared, would Gohan still have to wait for it to rain? Even if Gohan was willing to wait, would the big octopus be willing to wait? How long could he play with this big octopus like this? If the big octopus suddenly became smart and noticed Gohan's weakness, then everything would be over. Therefore, Gohan could not afford to delay any longer. He had to immediately think of a way to send the 12th lightning bolt into Misaka Mikoto's body before the dark clouds disappeared. At this time, although there were still some lightning bolts falling occasionally, their main landing point had shifted from the Rainflower Terrace to the Drum Tower district. The two districts were about 10 kilometers apart, and Misaka Mikoto's lightning guidance range was less than 5 kilometers. No matter how many lightning bolts fell from the Drum Tower district, they would not be able to enter Misaka Mikoto's body. Logically speaking, at this time, the best way was to move Misaka Mikoto's body to the Drum Tower district. As long as she was placed anywhere in the Drum Tower district, Misaka Mikoto could easily absorb the 12th lightning bolt. However, Misaka Mikoto clearly told Gohan that she could only absorb the lightning by staying in the Rainflower Terrace to heal herself. Otherwise, she would have gone to the Rainflower Terrace to be struck by lightning. She could just find a random area with no one around. Therefore, Misaka Mikoto could only stay in the Rainflower Terrace to absorb the lightning. She could not even move a muscle. If Gohan wanted to help Misaka Mikoto successfully absorb the 12th lightning bolt, there was only one way he could do it, and that was to find a way to direct the lightning from the Drum Tower District to the Cloud Terrace District. It sounded quite simple, but in reality, it was almost an impossible task. Gohan was entangled by the big octopus. How was he going to reach the Drum Tower District? Even if he reached the Drum Tower District, how was he going to send the lightning to the Cloud Terrace District? With a wire? Although there were a lot of things in Gohan's dimensional pocket that might be useful, a wire that spanned a distance of more than 10 kilometers was something that Gohan did not have. However, Gohan did not give up hope. He avoided the big octopus's tentacles as he scanned his surroundings. His brain was working frantically again, trying to find a way to solve the problem. Suddenly, Gohan found something interesting. The big octopus's tentacles were extremely long. It could extend from the Qinhuai district where he was at to the Drum Tower district. In other words, the big octopus and its tentacles could almost cover the entire Nanjing city. However, in the battle with the tentacles earlier, the big octopus's tentacles kept avoiding the Drum Tower district. Even if a tentacle occasionally came close, the big octopus would quickly retract it as if there was something terrifying in the Drum Tower district. So, what kind of terrifying thing could make the big octopus so afraid? The answer was simple. It was the lightning that was constantly falling from the Drum Tower district. The big octopus seemed to be very afraid of lightning. The big octopus had been hiding here for a long time. When Misaka Mikoto had just received the lightning, it could have come out to attack. However, it had been hiding in the building and did not expose itself. During the time when it was hiding, it happened to be the time when the lightning was raging in the Uatai district and Qinhuai district. It was precisely because it was struck by the lightning that it did not appear. It was only until the lightning had completely shifted to the Drum Tower district that it had the courage to show its head and attack Gohan. It seemed that the big octopus was extremely afraid of lightning. Logically speaking, with the size of the big octopus, it was not a big deal to be struck by lightning. The feeling of being struck by lightning on this behemoth was similar to being electrocuted by a small electric spark. Everyone must have played with the electronic lighter inside the lighter and experienced the numbing feeling of being hit by the electric spark from the lighter. To the big octopus, lightning was similar to electric sparks to humans. No one would really care about this numbing feeling. In fact, many people would even enjoy this numbing feeling. As the saying goes, a fool is not afraid of pain. With the big octopus's stupid brain, why would it be afraid of lightning? There was only one reason, and that was that the damage caused by the lightning to the big octopus was definitely not as simple as being hit by an electric spark. It must be a kind of unforgettable pain for the big octopus. The reason why humans did not think that the electric spark was very powerful was that the human body's electrical resistance was actually very high. The electric spark could only numb a small area. If the human body was close to the level of a superconductor, then the electric spark would not be as simple as numbing a small area. It would be conducted to every part of the human body. The same principle applied to the big octopus. What if the electric resistance of the big octopus was not as huge as its body size, but the opposite, close to a superconductor? Then, would the big octopus not be the best conductor in the world? Chapter 482. Soon, a plan formed in Gohan's mind. Etion, come back! As Gohan stretched out his hand, the heavenly sword that was still on the Rainflower Terrace turned into a ray of light and flew into Gohan's hand. Gohan then sheathed the Chinpin sword into its scabbard and switched the sword scar that he was using to the Heavenly Sword's sword scar. Gohan, if you let me come back, what about Doyu? Etion was puzzled as she asked through the sword mark. Without her and Doyu guarding one entrance each, would Misaka Mikoto not be surrounded by the bakers? It's okay. I've already told Doyu to give up on blocking the entrance. She just needs to protect Misaka Mikoto and not let the zombies hurt her. As he said that, Gohan rolled again and dodged another tentacle attack. But Doyu won't last long. Without someone to protect her, she and Misaka Mikoto will be attacked by Yuan Ko sooner or later. Etion was very worried about Doyu's situation. Don't worry. If my plan succeeds, then she won't have to hold on for too long. She only needs to hold on for 3 minutes. Gohan took a deep breath. With a shake of his hand, a verdant wine gourd appeared in his palm. Hey, bastard, what are you doing with my wine gourd? Etion was shocked when she saw her wine gourd in Gohan's hand. It was obvious that she was very unhappy that her wine gourd was in Gohan's hands. Aren't you going to let me have a taste of the green plum wine? As Gohan dodged the giant octopus's attack, he did not forget to give her a devilish smile. Bastard, the green plum wine is mine. I can only save a mouthful of it in an hour. Bastard, the green plum wine belongs to me. Etion wailed from within the sword mark. Unfortunately, it had no effect. Gohan still downed the green plum wine in his gourd without any hesitation. Good wine. Even Gohan, who didn't drink wine, couldn't help but praise the green plum wine after swallowing it. This was a very magical taste. After entering the mouth, there was a mellow and sweet sweetness, but after entering the stomach, it was like a raging fire burning in the body. Gohan couldn't help but feel something called heroism blossom from his stomach and occupy his entire body. Right now, Gohan was the same as Etion from before. He was wearing a mighty dragon armor. Come out, Yellow Claw Lightning. Almost instinctively, Gohan stepped on the giant octopus's tentacle and summoned the divine steed claw, Huang Feidian, from the tentacle. It appeared under Gohan's crotch. The giant octopus would probably be very frustrated when it saw this scene. No matter how hard it tried, it could not understand how a horse could appear from its tentacle. Is this the hero form? Gohan felt that at this moment, he didn't just have a new set of dazzling armor and a horse. Instead, Gohan's entire body now had the temperament of a hero. Originally, Gohan was good at scheming, liked to make plans before taking action, and was full of rationality. Now, he wanted to fight against the heavens and use the sword in his hand to slay all the Yuan Kos in the world. He wanted to use his own strength to make everyone submit to him. It was as if the soul of a hero had descended into Gohan's body, making Gohan feel that everything was no longer difficult. He could use his own strength and courage to defeat them. This kind of feeling and personality was something that Gohan had never experienced before in his life, because this was an extremely Chunibyu personality. This is the feeling of being a hero. Gohan couldn't help but close his eyes and experience this feeling that he had never felt before. I like this feeling. Claw Huang Feidian let out a neigh, and its 4 hooves ran along the tentacles of the giant octopus. The galloping Huang Feidian was extremely fast, and in the blink of an eye, it had escaped from the entanglement of a large group of tentacles. The giant octopus seemed to be completely dumbfounded. It couldn't understand how Gohan, who had been besieged by it, could suddenly have a horse under his butt and escape from its tentacles. This caused the giant octopus tentacles to freeze in place for a moment, as if it was a statue. Very soon, the giant octopus reacted. It couldn't run away, so its 3 tentacles followed behind Gohan's butt, wanting to catch this annoying little goblin back. Horses were the animals that were best at accelerating in a straight line. Previously, in the battle between the Heavenly Reliance and the Excavator Zombie, because it had to constantly change directions to chase the Excavator Zombie, Claw Huang Feidian couldn't run at its full speed. It was like a racing car that had to slow down when making a turn. Don't tell me that you can drift without slowing down? Don't you know that you have to step on the brakes when drifting? But now, under the control of Guhan, Claude Huang Feidian was finally able to run in a straight line without slowing down. It ran at the fastest speed in its life. Claude Huang Feidian was really a terrifying horse. In these 10 seconds it kept accelerating, and in the end it actually broke through the sound barrier. Guhan could even hear the bursts of sonic booms ringing in his ears. When the 10 seconds of hero mode passed, Claude Huang Feidian under Guhan's crotch roared unwillingly, and then disappeared under Guhan's crotch. As for Guhan, because of inertia, he directly fell to the ground and rolled for a few hundred meters before finally stopping. Great, I've finally reached the Gulu district. Guhan stood up and looked around. He found that the surrounding zombies were all alone and not in a large scale. He knew that he had already broken through the 2 administrative districts of Nanjing, Qinhuai District and Xuanwu District, and reached the once most prosperous Gulu district. And the 8 tentacles of the giant octopus stopped at the border between the Gulu district and Xuanwu district. It hesitated, not daring to go forward and grab Guhan, who was very close at hand. Ha 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 ha, I didn't think that an octopus like you was actually a piece of trash. You let me escape so easily. Trash. Trash. Guhan laughed crazily, throwing out all kinds of taunts. Everyone who was familiar with Guhan's personality knew that Guhan wasn't a person who liked to taunt his opponents. His taunts definitely had their own meaning. But obviously, this giant octopus didn't know this. It was already angered by Guhan's taunts. Its 8 tentacles were ready to move, but it was still afraid of the Gulu district and didn't dare to make a move. Trash. Why don't you make a move? Aren't your tentacles very powerful? Guhan sneered, and his face showed a playful expression. Don't tell me that you, this giant octopus, are also afraid of the thunder and lightning here like those little kids? Well, Guhan's words completely angered the giant octopus. As the saying goes, don't hit people's faces, don't scold people's shortcomings. This giant octopus had to make a move even if it didn't want to. Otherwise, didn't it mean that it was really afraid of these thunder and lightning? So, the 8 tentacles of the giant octopus were like lightning, instantly grabbing out. These 8 tentacles grabbed out from 8 different directions, completely blocking all the possible escape routes of Guhan. It seemed that after more than an hour of fighting, this giant octopus finally had a little bit of growth. Logically speaking, if Guhan really wanted to avoid these tentacles, even if they grabbed from 8 directions at the same time, Guhan was still confident that he could dodge them. But the problem was that at this time, Guhan didn't want to dodge at all. He stood there straight, letting the 8 tentacles wrap around his body at the same time. It was like a tentacle play, and he was firmly grabbed by the giant octopus. Well, now even if Guhan had great skills, he couldn't escape from the grasp of the giant octopus's tentacles. Guhan! Etienne let out a cry of surprise. He wanted to say something, but he felt a quiet intent from Guhan's sword mark. Etienne shut his mouth on the spot and didn't say anything else. He secretly felt sad for this unlucky giant octopus. It seemed that Guhan had already arranged a sad trap for this giant octopus. Why don't you escape? Asked the giant octopus in a buzzing voice. Compared to the indifference from before, there was finally a little more emotion in its words. No matter how stupid it was, it could still see that Guhan didn't dodge at all just now. Nothing, I'm tired, so I wanted to talk to you. Guhan smiled confidently. My friend is still there, so I can't escape alone. What do you want to talk to me about? Asked the giant octopus. How about we talk about a deal? If you let my friend finish her treatment and let her leave here safely, I'll hand my life over to you. How about that? Said Guhan faintly. You're already in my hands. I can crush you at any time, said the giant octopus proudly. As long as I want to, I can leave this place at any time. You know my strength, I've never bragged. Of course, Gohan wasn't bragging. As long as he willed it, he could leave and return to the trial array. The giant octopus was silent. The battle that lasted more than an hour just now had also tired it out. In its subconscious, it had already tacitly accepted the fact that Gohan was very powerful. So when Gohan said that he could escape from the giant octopus's palm, the giant octopus believed it. Moreover, it believed it without a doubt. Next, Gohan displayed his talent for chatting and began to talk about all kinds of things. He also mixed a lot of chicken soup for the soul and the like. This made the giant octopus stunned. It was immersed in Gohan's words and forgot to retract its tentacles. At this time, there was a faint light in the dark clouds in the sky. Gohan's heart moved, knowing that the time had come. You know what? You're actually very stupid. You shouldn't have pestered me just now. If you had directly grabbed my friend who was sitting there, I would have no choice but to surrender, said Gohan suddenly. When the giant octopus heard that, it came to a sudden realization. That's right, why did I pester this human just now? The giant octopus was filled with regret. It immediately extended one of its tentacles toward where Misaka Mikoto was. It wanted to capture Misaka Mikoto to make up for its mistake. This is the moment I've been waiting for. In the blink of an eye, Gohan threw the heavenly sword in his hand into the sky. There was a long copper wire on the hilt of the heavenly sword that was connected to Gohan's arm. At this time, the lightning that had been brewing in the sky for a long time finally struck down. Under the attraction of the heavenly sword, it instantly struck the body of the heavenly sword. A huge electric current flowed through the copper wire on the heavenly sword and into Gohan's body. Then, through the tentacle that was grabbing onto Gohan's body, it was instantly transmitted to the giant octopus's entire body. The giant octopus's tentacle that was about to reach Misaka Mikoto was no exception. Therefore, the lightning passed through Heavenly Sword, Gohan, and the giant octopus's bodies and successfully entered Misaka Mikoto's body. All 12 lightning bolts were finally completed. Chapter 483. I'm sorry, I didn't control it well. I wanted to make it smaller, Misaka Mikoto said guiltily. Plop. Gohan, whose upper body was numb, fell to the ground. Dozens of burnt tentacles fell together with Gohan. These tentacles gave off the strong aroma of grilled octopus. The giant octopus was indeed the best lead. Just one lightning strike was enough to destroy all of its tentacles. All of its tentacles fell to the ground, leaving only the body of the octopus. However, it was also burnt black, and it was hard to tell if it was dead or alive. However, is this really the power that a universe-level Yuan-ko can possess? Gohan could not help but think. He recalled the book's definition of a universe-level Yuan-ko. The definition of a universe-level Yuan-ko was very simple. Able to destroy a city with a population of 5 million with a single strike, leaving no survivors. Forget it, this is just a ruin. The only one alive here is the damn Yuan-ko. Even if you don't destroy this place, I'll destroy it sooner or later. Gohan sighed. Although Gohan said that he did not mind seeing one of the central cities of Huaxia completely disappear, he still felt a little sad in his heart. Let me explain it to you. The author has never read any Enchanted World novels. He didn't even read the second season of the Enchanted World. Therefore, his understanding of cis-canon is only at the level of anime. His understanding of the Enchanted World is also at the same level. As for the more in-depth world, I'm not interested in understanding it, nor am I interested in writing about it. To be honest, Misaka Mikoto's posture was a little bad. As long as Gohan glanced up, he would be able to see her underwear with a frog pattern printed on it. Unlike the train-like tentacles from before, the tentacles this time were only as thick as a water pipe. However, the tips of the tentacles were extremely sharp. The tentacles had turned into sharp knives that were trying to pierce into Gohan's body and turn Gohan's body into a sieve. This was definitely not good news for the human race. As long as 10% of the Yuan souls in this world advanced to a small realm, the fragile balance that the human race maintained would be completely broken, and the human race would face a super crisis of extinction. What do you mean? Close your eyes? Gohan was stunned. Then, he heard a vague voice. Forbidden territory, God's super electromagnetic gun. Do you come back? At that critical moment, Gohan ordered Gu Yun to return to her sword. He planned to activate the power of the trial ground and return to Changyang Mountain. As for what would happen to Misaka Mikoto and whether she could heal him, Gohan could not care less. If he did not leave now, Gohan would really be killed by the giant octopus. I'm sorry. I didn't control my power well. Misaka Mikoto blushed when she saw the disbelief on Gohan's face. She began to apologize. I didn't know that my power had reached such a level. I only wanted to destroy that giant octopus. I didn't expect to destroy Nanjing City. I really didn't mean to destroy your ruins. I'll help you rebuild it in the future. The number of tentacles on the giant octopus's skin corresponded to the number of volcanic craters on its body. Gohan took a quick glance and saw more than 100 tentacles. These tentacles only had one target, which was Gohan, who was half kneeling on the ground. You lied to me. Despicable human, you lied to me. An extremely sorrowful voice echoed in the sky. It was the giant octopus's voice. Human, I wanted to let you live. But you lied to me. You lied to me. You must die. You must die. However, Gohan was surprised to find that Gu Yun had chosen to reject his order. Gohan did not use a forceful order, so the sword mistress still had the ability to reject him. Thank you. Gohan extended his hand. Misaka Mikoto understood his intention and extended her hand as well. The two of them held each other's hands tightly, forming a legend that would be passed down by all humans in the future. Oh well, I just hope that Misaka Mikoto is done healing. It's time for me to go. Half of Gohan's body was paralyzed by the lightning. It was impossible for him to evade the sharp tentacles' attacks. Fortunately, Gohan's body was buffed by Duyu's sword and Heavenly Sword's yin-yang swordplay tactic. Otherwise, he would not have been paralyzed. He would have turned into a dried corpse by now. Mr. Gohan, haven't you rested enough? As the golden light in front of Gohan's eyes gradually dissipated, an energetic voice rang in Gohan's ears. Gohan opened his eyes and saw Misaka Mikoto squatting on his head, smiling at him. Ms. Misaka, please forgive me for being presumptuous. May I ask if you still have the ability of a universe-level freelancer? Gohan asked after thinking for a while. Since he was friends with Misaka Mikoto, he could ask her directly. There was no need for him to beat around the bush. However, that was the truth. Since the beginning of human history, the level that Yuan Ko entered the human world would always be the same level. The 999,999% Yuan Ko would not have any possibility of leveling up. Therefore, when the legendary item that could allow a desolate level Yuan Ko to level up appeared in the world, it attracted the 3 desolate level Yuan Ko's attention. Of course, in the end, the 3 desolate level Yuan Ko's ended up dead, proving the truth that Yuan Ko could not level up. Wait a minute, the place I'm lying on did not change at all. Gohan lowered his head, only to find that the area of about 100 square meters where he was lying at this time still maintained its original appearance. It was covered with white cement, forming a sharp contrast with the surrounding scorched black, like a crane among a flock of chickens. Did you notice it too? Misaka Mikoto began to look doubtful. I couldn't believe it either. However, after seeing this power, I have to believe it. I'm afraid I've become a universe-level Yuan Ko. Nanjing had a population of 10 million people before the apocalypse. The power of Misaka Mikoto's attack was twice that of a universe-level Yuan Ko's. If it was an all-out attack, Misaka Mikoto should be very tired and exhausted. However, Misaka Mikoto was able to talk and laugh with him. She could even subtly control a 100-square-meter area to prevent it from being attacked. This was not something that could be achieved with an all-out attack. Then there was the problem of power. If the power was based on the original work, then there was no need for me to write the book. Any small boss in the Forbidden World could easily defeat the big boss in the Moon World. There was no comparison at all. Therefore, the author would redesign the power of the various worlds Yuan-ko according to certain rules to ensure that they would be able to maintain their corresponding power. At the very least, my Artoria would be able to fight evenly with the universe level. Otherwise, according to the power settings, how many Artorias would it take to defeat a universe-level Yuan-ko? Gohan was speechless. Even Gohan himself would not be able to achieve this level of control. Misaka Mikoto was indeed a universe-level Yuan-ko. Her mastery of electromagnetism had reached the pinnacle. If he wanted to achieve this level of mastery of sword energy, he would need at least 10 years or even a few decades. Lastly, regarding the setting of Yuan-ko's character, if there was a chance for this book to be published in the future, the author would definitely change all the copyrighted Yuan-ko characters. For example, he would replace Ciscanon with Electro. Of course, that is if there is a chance for this book to be published in the future. P.S. In the book review section, there is a description of Ciscanon's power. There are also comments about how terrifying the gods in the Forbidden World are and how they have the power to turn the earth upside down. The author also commented that I was wrong. The giant octopus's voice was like an explosion. Then, the charred skin on his body started to peel off. Finally, a layer of pink skin was revealed. At the same time, black smoke rose from the small volcanic craters on his body. Then, countless tentacles shot out from the volcanic craters. Gohan turned his head around and slowly got up from the ground. He smiled weakly. Ms. Misaka, congratulations. You've recovered. Did you control all this? You purposely controlled your skill so that it didn't hurt me? Although Gohan was certain, he still sounded doubtful. It could not be helped. Gohan could not believe that Misaka Mikoto was able to evade the godly super electromagnetic gun's wide-range attack by deliberately leaving a small area untouched. What kind of terrifying control did she have? F***CK, is she going to use her ultimate skill? Gohan immediately closed his eyes. At that moment, he felt a golden light shining in front of him. Even with his eyes closed, Gohan would have been blinded. If Gohan's eyes were open, who knew what color Gohan's eyes would see? Gohan let go of his hand and finally had a chance to look at his surroundings. He was completely shocked. At that moment, the entire Nanjing city had turned from a wasteland to a scorched land. Not a single tree or ruin could be seen. As far as the eye could see, it was all charred black, as if it had been flattened by a terrifying force. How did this happen? You've leveled up? Gohan finally got an affirmative answer from Misaka Mikoto. It was not strange at all. Humans could continuously level up from an ancient sword-level sword wielder to an emperor sword-level sword wielder. Could it be that Yuan-ko was not allowed to level up his ability? It's all thanks to you. Misaka Mikoto nodded and placed a hand on Gohan's shoulder. Mr. Gohan, don't worry. I, Misaka Mikoto, will definitely do what I promised you. From today onwards, you're my best friend. Whenever you need help, I'll do my best to help you. Misaka Mikoto said solemnly. However, according to some groundless legends and urban legends, there were a few Yuan-ko who had completed his own leveling up through some unknown method. All this while, Gohan had been skeptical of such groundless rumors. It was only when he saw Misaka Mikoto that he was certain that Yuan-ko could level up. Brother, Sister Misaka told you to lie there and close your eyes. You'll be fine in a while. Gu-yun giggled through the sword mark. Unfortunately, Gohan soon realized that he was wrong. The giant octopus was not dead. This is the first time I've seen the force of nature kill Yuan-ko. Gohan exclaimed. Although it's clearly written in the textbooks that other than objects containing sword essences and sword mothers, the force of nature on Earth can also kill Yuan Ko, it's still rare for the force of nature to kill Yuan Ko. This is the first time in Gohan's life that Yuan Ko was killed by natural lightning. Chapter 484. It's weird, isn't it? Misaka Mikoto had a playful look on her face when she heard Gohan's question. Misaka Mikoto did not expect that she would reveal a shocking secret after that. Misaka Mikoto said, "Actually, this isn't my first time leveling up. When I first came to this world, I was only equivalent to the dragon-level Yuan Ko that you guys are talking about. What level Yuan Ko? Everything is just a joke." When Misaka Mikoto first came to this world, she was only a dragon-level Yuan Ko. Gohan remembered that when Misaka Mikoto became familiar with the humans, she was already a U-level Yuan Ko. Something special must have happened to Misaka Mikoto during this period of time that allowed her to complete her leveling up. It was also here, under this monument, that I met a person. He was the one who taught me how to build an electromagnetic model, allowing me to build the model of the god's core using the electricity in my body. This allowed me to break through level 6, which only gods can achieve, and become a U-level Yuan Ko. Misaka Mikoto recalled and said slowly, "At that time, I also borrowed the power of the lightning here. That person told me that this is the only place in the world where I can build my own electromagnetic model. That's why I had to return here and put Mr. Gohan in a difficult situation. I'm very sorry, Misaka." "You don't have to say sorry anymore. However, I think this might be the last time you use the power here." Gohan smiled bitterly and then told her about how she had destroyed the energy layer of the Rainflower Terrace when she absorbed the lightning. "I think the reason why the lightning here is so special is because of this energy layer. When the lightning passed through the energy layer, it brought the energy inside into your body. The 12 lightning bolts have exhausted the remaining energy here. I'm afraid that if you get injured again, you won't be able to come here to repair your electromagnetic model." "Is that so?" Misaka Mikoto did not react to the terrible news. On the contrary, she was very calm. "I'm very satisfied that I'm able to use it a second time. One shouldn't be too greedy." Gohan didn't reply because Gohan knew in his heart that he was actually the greediest person, because what he wanted was the entire world. This was something that all the great demon kings in various myths and legends wanted to achieve. Misaka Mikoto accompanied Gohan to rest for half an hour before Gohan could stand up and walk on his own. Since he could move freely, it was time for Gohan to leave Nanjing City. Gohan was very worried about the situation in Yuzhong City and whether the Creator's Godhead had been activated. Gohan did not want to waste a single minute here. However, soon, a new situation appeared that forced Gohan to stay there. In the ashes of the giant octopus, his personal terminal had sensed Yuan Ko's power. The giant octopus was the direct target of Misaka Mikoto's ultimate skill. At that time, it didn't even have a physical body. It had turned into a pile of black ashes like the ashes of a tomb sweeping during the Qingming festival. Logically speaking, under such circumstances, the giant octopus should be dead for sure. However, Gohan's personal terminal kept flashing, showing that there was a Yuan Shin's reaction in the middle of the ashes. Of course, this could also be a false alarm from the personal terminal, and the probability of it being a false alarm was very high. That was because the miniaturization of the Yuan Ko detector was a somewhat unreliable technology. This scanner was sometimes ineffective, and did not even respond to certain parts of the Yuan Ko. Therefore, most of the time, the swordsman could not be bothered to pay attention to the alerts from the Yuan Ko detector on the personal terminal. However, at this time, Gohan could not ignore it. If this giant octopus was really still alive, it would probably not take long for it to recover its strength and become a human opponent again. It was better to take advantage of its weakness and kill it. Therefore, Gohan followed the directions of the personal terminal and walked step by step to the place where the signal was the strongest. This was the core area of the giant octopus's carcass. There was a small mound of ashes there. It seemed that there was a little more ash there. However, if one looked closely at the mound, they would find that the whole mound was shaking slightly. Dust constantly rolled down from the mound. There was something in the mound. Gohan directly swept a sword energy over, and the dust on the small mound was instantly blown away, revealing a nest of little elves. Wait, should this be the remains of the giant octopus? How did it become a nest of little elves? But the truth was that there was no octopus in the mound. There were only 8 little people the size of chicks with a pair of wings gathered together in fear. They were holding hands and chest to chest. When they saw Gohan, their expressions were as if they had seen the devil. Sister! Sister! So scary! So scary! 8 clear and melodious voices cried out at the same time. Coupled with their frightened expressions, it was impossible to kill them. However, these 8 little elves called each other sister at the same time. Moreover, they looked exactly the same. Logically speaking, who was the big sister? At least come out and explain. 8. Although these little elves were extremely cute, there was not the slightest bit of tenderness in Gohan's eyes. The number of 8 reminded Gohan of the giant octopus' 8 tentacles. Even a ghost could see that there was a deep connection between them. These 8 little elves were most likely transformed from the giant octopus. Trying to use your appearance to gain sympathy? Gohan did not care about their cuteness at all. Throughout history, there were too many humans who died tragically because of Yuan Ko's momentary weakness and cuteness. The story of the farmer and the snake had never stopped, no matter what era it was. Gohan raised his Chinpin sword and was ready to slash down with another sword energy. Looking at the size of these little elves, Gohan would probably only need one slash to turn them into green, red, or black mush, just like the cockroaches and moths that we usually killed. Wait, you can't kill them! At that moment, Misaka Mikoto suddenly stopped him. Why? Gohan's hand froze and he stopped attacking. Things were different now. Previously, Misaka Mikoto needed Gohan's protection since Gohan had the power. That was why she listened to Gohan's every word. However, Misaka Mikoto had regained her power. In fact, it could even be said that she had reached the level of an epic-level freedom user. She was only one step away from chaos. Emperor's sword. Yuan Ko and the sword wielder. If Misaka Mikoto wanted to, she could directly electrolyze Gohan. I need a reason. Gohan's voice was low. He did not like being suppressed by Misaka Mikoto. That's because these little elves are no longer Yuan Ko. Misaka Mikoto bent down and gently grabbed the little elves' heads, as if they were little dolls. Then, she pulled them into her arms. Although Misaka Mikoto was very gentle toward them, the little elves did not appreciate it. They panicked and desperately tried to escape from Misaka Mikoto's arms. Looks like I scared them to death just now. Misaka Mikoto looked a little embarrassed when she saw that. She had scared them to death. From being the world's #1 octopus, they had been electrocuted into little things that were similar to a doll on a key. It would be strange if they were not afraid of Misaka Mikoto. Ms. Misaka, you said that they're no longer Yuan Ko. Are you saying that they've become freedom users? Gohan voiced out his speculation. However, they've become freedom users. I can't sense any filth from their bodies. Misaka Mikoto smiled gently. The electrolysis must have removed the filth from the giant octopus's body. It's amazing. I didn't expect that I could remove the filth from their bodies. There has never been a case of a freedom user removing the filth from their bodies with the help of someone else. Misaka Mikoto's words revealed a very important piece of information. The current freedom users relied on their own power to remove the filth from their bodies. There had never been a case of freedom users removing the filth from their bodies with the help of another freedom user. It was a very important piece of information that Gohan kept in mind. Since Ms. Misaka said that they're freedom users, then they must be freedom users. Gohan said expressionlessly, "Ms. Misaka, please take good care of these little elves. Don't let them get hurt." "What? You don't believe me?" Misaka Mikoto glared at Gohan. "Now that I'm at Ian level, I have many abilities that I couldn't even imagine when I was at universe level. Do you know? In fact, human consciousness is also a manifestation of electric current. I can enter your brain at any time and monitor your brain currents to know what you're thinking. As long as I'm willing, I can understand anything you're thinking. F***ck, isn't this ability too overpowered?" Even Gohan could not help but shudder when he heard Misaka Mikoto's ability. He did not expect a level 6 electricity user to be so terrifying. "I'm not interested in entering your brain to see what filthy things are in there." Misaka Mikoto spat. "The reason why I'm telling you all this is to let you know that I have complete control over these 8 little ones, from their minds to their bodies. They're all under my control. Don't worry, I've erased all of their memories from the era of the giant octopus. They're now a clean sheet of paper, 8 of the purest children." Chapter 485. "Oh," Gohan replied calmly, which almost infuriated Misaka Mikoto. "Don't act like this has nothing to do with you. Let me tell you, these 8 little guys are my gifts to you. You have to treat them well and raise them well, understand?" Misaka Mikoto suddenly said. Humph, 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 humph. "Wait, what does that mean? What gift to me? What do you mean I have to raise them up?" Gohan looked at Misaka Mikoto with a dumbfounded expression. He did not expect that the 8 little elves would automatically appear in Gohan's arms as soon as the electric light flashed on Misaka Mikoto's body. They were different from how anxious they were when they were in Misaka Mikoto's arms. They instantly became intimate in Gohan's arms. Some of them even yawned and rubbed themselves against Gohan's body as they looked for a comfortable spot to lie down and sleep. They seemed to really treat Gohan's chest as their nest. Fortunately, Gohan did not wear the infant pouch. Otherwise, Chingpin's throne would have been usurped by someone else. "Ms. Misaka, I'm afraid this isn't appropriate." Gohan's expression was as ugly as if he had been constipated for more than 10 days. "I'm a sword wielder and I have to take care of these 8 little elves. What's wrong with that? There's no such example in Yuzhong City." Misaka Mikoto did not answer Gohan's question directly. Instead, she started another topic. "Little brother Gohan, I hereby announce to you that you're my, Misaka Mikoto's, little brother Gohan, and I'm your big sister Mikoto. From now on, you're not allowed to call me Ms. Misaka. We'll address each other as brother and sister." What the hell is this? Does it have to be so sudden? Gohan had never thought of looking for an older sister. Therefore, Gohan instinctively wanted to reject this older sister who had descended from the sky. However, he swallowed his words when Misaka Mikoto said something. "Little brother Gohan, from now on, as long as you don't call me Big Sister Mikoto, I'll immediately return to the Freedom Metropolis. I don't care about Yuzhong City anymore. Anyway, Loki won't dare to hurt my friends. Once Yuzhong City is done for, he'll send my friends back to the Freedom Metropolis. Do you understand?" Misaka Mikoto said proudly. When Gohan heard Misaka Mikoto's words, he could only swallow his words. Misaka Mikoto was right. As long as the desolate level freedman in the Freedom Metropolis was still around, Loki would never dare to kill the freedman in the Freedom Metropolis. Misaka Mikoto did not need to save her friends at all. All she needed to do was to wait for them to be fed and sent back to the Freedom Metropolis. However, without the help of Misaka Mikoto, the universe-level Yuan Ko, only God knew what would happen to Yuzhong City. Although Misaka Mikoto's threat was mostly meant as a joke, Gohan did not really think that Misaka Mikoto was the kind of person who would turn her back on him. If Gohan forcefully rejected her, Misaka Mikoto would most likely follow him back to Yuzhong City. However, why would Gohan reject Misaka Mikoto's request? As long as he calmed down and thought about it, he would know how beneficial it would be if he really became Misaka Mikoto's sibling. Becoming sibling with a universe-level freedman would undoubtedly be of great help to Gohan in the future. Wasn't it normal for an older sister to help her younger brother deal with some small problems? Wasn't it a natural thing to do? Relying on the favor of saving Misaka Mikoto would only be able to exchange for Misaka Mikoto's temporary help. However, by relying on their sibling relationship, Gohan would be able to continuously receive the power of the universe-level Yuan Ko. Only a fool would refuse this. After understanding this, Gohan could only pretend to be frightened by Misaka Mikoto's threat and obediently called her Sister Mikoto. When Misaka Mikoto heard Gohan call her sister, she could not help but feel relieved. Great, now that she and Gohan were siblings, all those crazy thoughts of letting that idiot down could go with the wind. Alright, let's talk about these 8 little fellows. Don't think that I'm throwing these 8 burdens to you. Let me tell you, these 8 little fellows have extraordinary potential. Misaka Mikoto patted the heads of the 8 little elves. Hearing Misaka Mikoto's words, the 8 little elves were as quiet as cicadas in winter and did not dare to move. Misaka Mikoto sighed. If it wasn't for the fact that I'm afraid that I'll scare them to death with me, I wouldn't bear to let you take care of them. Where did they come from? When Gohan heard Misaka Mikoto's words, it was the first time he did not feel so repulsed by the 8 little fellows. I'm not sure about its exact origin, but it should be a free being born because of the mutation of the godly super electromagnetic gun from the giant octopus. Although I don't know their exact origins, when I checked their bodies, I found out that their bodies have already formed elemental models. Elemental models. Once again, Gohan heard of a new name. However, it was not like he had never heard of it before. It seemed like the core of Misaka Mikoto's body, which was also the key to Misaka Mikoto's advancement to universe level, was something called electromagnetic modeling. Elemental models are the key reason why my friends and I were able to advance to level 6. I don't know how the universe-level Yuan Ko from other worlds are able to activate their powerful strength, but the freedmen from my world and I can only master the power of universe level after forming elemental models in our bodies. Little brother Gohan, do you understand what I'm saying now? I think I understand a little. Gohan nodded in a daze. He still found it hard to believe. Sister Mikoto, you mean that these little fellows have already formed elemental models in their bodies, and they are all universe-level Yuan Ko. Gohan really couldn't believe it. No one would believe that these 8 little fellows who were sleeping on his chest were 8 universe-level freedmen. This was not something that the 3 Egyptian gods could compare to the universe-level Yuan Ko, who seemed to be on good terms with Gohan. From the way these little fellows relied on him, as long as Gohan adjusted them well, they could all become his family or his precious daughters. This meant that Gohan now had 11 universe-level Yuan Ko or freedmen as his helpers. As long as Gohan was willing, he could even usurp the throne in Yuzhong City and take over Wudao's position. Look at you, it's not that simple. I'm just a universe-level freedman. How can I create 8 universe-level freedmen in one go? They are at most mouse level now, and they need your help to become universe-level freedmen. Maybe universe level isn't their limit, it's possible for them to reach universe level, just like sister. Then how should I help them? Gohan must have made up his mind to adopt these 8 little fellows. No one could resist the temptation of 8 universe level or even universe level freedmen becoming his helpers. It's very simple. Find the attribute of their elemental modeling, then look for energy of the same attribute and pour it into their bodies. Just like how my electromagnetic attribute needs the heavenly lightning. Misaka Mikoto said it lightly, but it sounded like a pain in the ass to Gohan. Sister, you said it yourself. Not all lightning can be used by you, and only the lightning from the Rainflower Terrace can be used. Now that the Rainflower Terrace is destroyed, where am I going to find the lightning they want? Even if I can find the lightning, where am I going to find the other 7 elements? They might just be mouse-level freedmen for the rest of their lives. You should bring them back to Freedom City, and let them live their lives freely. It's not as difficult as you think. Rare things like the lightning from the Rainflower Terrace are only needed to reconstruct their elemental modeling. Now that the elemental modeling in their bodies has been completed, all you need to do is pour the ordinary elemental energy into their bodies and let them absorb it themselves. Misaka Mikoto knocked on Gohan's head affectionately. Alright, protect the 8 of them. We should return to Yuzhang City. First pour, second pour, third pour, fourth pour, fifth pour, sixth pour, seventh pour, eighth pour. All of you, stand properly and start counting. In a temporary campsite, Chinpin, who was not very tall herself, picked up a tree branch and used it as a pointer. She started training the 8 little guys that she had just taken in. These little guys were the 8 little elves that Gohan had just obtained, the Yuan Ko elves, who were said to be able to grow to universe level. Under Chingpin's command, they flapped their little wings and formed a line in the air that was at the same level as Chingpin's head. However, only God knew if the 8 little elves were standing in the wrong order. Even with Gohan's eyesight, he could not tell the difference between the 8 little elves. However, it seemed like Chinpin was able to tell the difference. At the very least, she had pointed out that the positions of first pour and 7th pour were reversed. When the sky was getting dark and Gohan was setting up the campsite, Chinpin, who had just been released, found that she had 8 new toys. She immediately clambered beside Gohan and wanted to be the master of these 8 little elves. Although Gohan was afraid that these unlucky kids would be played by Chinpin, Gohan, who didn't have the time or desire to take care of these little guys, found that it was actually a good choice to let Chinpin take care of them. In fact, although Chinpin was naughty, she had a certain level of propriety. Chinpin's naughtiness would only appear when she was resting, but in a real battle, Chinpin had never really dropped the ball. Therefore, Gohan believed that Chinpin would take care of these little guys. Needless to say, Gohan's guess was not wrong. In a short period of time, Chinpin successfully became the master of these little guys. These little guys were also very obedient to Chinpin. They would do whatever Chinpin said, just like 8 living followers. After hearing that her 8 disciples did not have their own names, Chinpin immediately generously expressed that she could share her name with her disciples. Therefore, the names of first pour, second pour, third pour, fourth pour, fifth pour, sixth pour, 7th pour, and 8th pour were officially given to these 8 little guys. By the time Gohan discovered this, the 8 little ones had already completely accepted these 8 names. They couldn't change it even if they wanted to. Chapter 486. Mine, this is mine. No, this is my 3rd pours. Gohan had a headache looking at the 8 poor people flying around in front of him. Didn't they say that newborn babies like to sleep? Why were these 8 little guys so noisy? These 8 troublemakers had been fighting for almost an hour for the glass bead that Gohan took out for them to pass the time. Gohan felt like he was watching a thrilling football game. It was so noisy that Gohan couldn't even sleep. First pour, second pour, 8th pour, all of you go to sleep. Chingpin's head is hurting because of your noise. In the end, Chingpin's words were still useful. After she spoke, the 8 troublemakers immediately shut their mouth. They obediently flew into Gohan's hair and began to sleep. It was probably because Gohan's hair was very similar to a bird's nest. These 8 troublemakers had already determined that Gohan's hair was their nest. They hid inside and refused to come out. There were 8 little guys hiding in his hair to sleep. If this happened to him, no one would be able to sleep peacefully. It was not that there was something in his hair that was uncomfortable, but Gohan was worried that if he turned over, he would squash the 8 little guys in his hair. Gohan held it in for a while and decided to let Chinpin open her mouth to call out these little guys. But when he looked closely, he found that Chinpin had already fallen asleep in Gohan's arms. This child, she had fought and played for a whole day today. She must be exhausted. Seeing Chinpin sleeping soundly, how could Gohan bear to wake her up? He could only squint his eyes and drowsily feel the flesh of the 8 little guys in his hair. He couldn't sleep, nor could he not sleep. Brother, Yunner has something to tell you. Just as Gohan was struggling, he suddenly heard Gu Yun's voice. He opened his eyes and found that Gu Yun, who was supposed to be sleeping on the other bed, was now lying beside him. Don't mess around. Go to sleep. Brother doesn't have time to play with you now. Gohan patted Gu Yun's head and didn't want to talk to her anymore. Brother, Xiao Yun isn't messing with you. Xiao Yun has something important to tell you. Gu Yun moved closer and moved her mouth close to Gohan's ear. The fragrance of a young girl floated into Gohan's nose. Brother, Xiao Yun's stomach is so bloated. Hurry up and take away the thing in Xiao Yun's stomach. What kind of nonsense was this? Please don't make it sound so ambiguous. What's going on? Xiao Yun, what's wrong with you? What's in your stomach? Gohan shuddered and became more energetic. However, Gohan did not think too much about it. He was only worried about Gu Yun's health. Brother, after Sister Misaka killed all the Yuan-ko with one shot, a huge dimensional whirlpool appeared. Xiao Yun sneaked in and accidentally ate too much. Gu Yun pitifully told him the reason for her bloated stomach. He broke out in cold sweat when he heard the news. He did not expect that to be the reason for Gu Yun's bloated stomach. Based on the density of the zombies that covered half of Nanjing, Misaka Mikoto's super electromagnetic gun had killed at least 1 million Yuan-ko. If all the Yuan-ko were absorbed by the same dimensional whirlpool, even if 1 Yuan-ko could only bring in 1 quark of sword essence, the dimensional whirlpool would contain at least 1 million quarks of sword essence. Gu Yun had gone in for a spin. It would be strange if she did not die from the terrifying amount of sword essence in the dimensional whirlpool. There was a limit to the amount of sword essence that a sword maiden could absorb at one time. For example, a sword maiden could only accumulate 10,000 quarks of sword essence in their body at one time. After that, they would not be able to absorb any more sword essence. They would have to transfer all the sword essence in their body to their sword wielder before they could absorb the sword essence in the dimensional whirlpool. To be able to make sword maidens feel bloated, this was a feeling that could only be felt when the sword elemental storage in their bodies had reached 95% or above. In other words, Gu Yun should have at least 9,500 quarks of sword elemental around her. There were at least 1 million quarks of sword elemental in the dimensional vortex. If Gu Yun went one round inside, it was very likely that she would be filled with sword elemental, reaching the upper limit of 10,000 quarks of sword elemental. If all these sword elemental were transferred to Gohan's body, based on the calculation of 50%, it was very likely that Gohan would have an additional 5,000 quarks of sword elemental. Gu Yun, why did you only tell your brother about this now? Brother is going to pull out the thing in your stomach right now. Gohan immediately threw the drowsiness to the back of his mind. He placed his hand on Gu Yun's body, planning to return her to his sword and stick her to his stomach. He would then use the Purple Mansion transfer technique to transfer the sword essence in Gu Yun's body. Oh right. I wonder if everyone still remembers how the sword essence is transferred. If you don't, you can go read chapter 125. The author will not repeat the story. When the sword essence in Gu Yun's body began to flow into the mark on Gohan's Duyu sword, Gohan was surprised to find that the amount of sword essence stored in Gu Yun's body far exceeded his estimation. The sword essence stored in her body was not 10,000 quarks, but doubled to 20,000 quarks of sword essence. This was another discovery that surpassed the common sense of a sword maiden. Since ancient times, the upper limit of a sword maiden's storage was 10,000 quarks. Even if she was Jiandi, Kanzu's sword maiden, it would still be this number. There would absolutely be no change. But now Gu Yun's body actually stored 20,000 quarks. This had completely reversed the common sense that Gohan knew. Could this be because of the yin-yang sword art? Suddenly, Gohan thought of the yin-yang sword art. Since the yin-yang sword art allowed the Doyu sword and heavenly sword to fuse into one, then having twice the amount of sword essence stored in a sword maiden's sword maiden seemed to be very normal. Since ancient times, no sword wielder had ever successfully practiced the yin-yang sword art, so naturally, there were no records about the amount of sword essence stored. This was a very scientific matter, and there was nothing strange about it. So be it. Gohan decided not to waste any effort thinking about the yin-yang sword art. He greedily absorbed the huge amount of sword essence from Gu Yun's body. This was an extremely long process. When Gohan finished all of this, the sky had already brightened, and a new day had begun. From this day onwards, the amount of sword essence in Gohan's body had already surpassed that of a treasured sword wielder, and reached the requirement of a famed sword wielder. With around 14,000 sword essences, Gohan could now go look for his own famed sword wielder, the sword mistress. King Yu, wait for me. Once Yuzhong City is peaceful again, I'll go and find you in Yanjing City. Gohan murmured in his heart. How's Eagle Cat doing? Outside the Super VIP ward of the Sword Bearers Medical Center, Sword Immortal Cloud Sky and Sword Immortal Baiju were both waiting at the door, looking at the Eagle Cat Sword Spirit lying on the bed. Sir Chairman, the Eagle Cat Sword Spirit has only suffered some torture and abuse. He'll completely recover after a day's rest in the hospital, but... A doctor in a white coat hesitated for a moment, but still decided to speak. But according to the tests, the Eagle Cat Sword Spirit's sword marks have all shattered, except for the mark on the Ziying sword. Even the mark on the Ziying sword is on the verge of shattering. With every second that passes, the mark on the Ziying sword is in danger of shattering. Eagle Cat, you've suffered. Hearing that the Eagle Cat Sword Spirit was in such a terrible state, Zhu Wudao and Lu Lei's faces were filled with deep sympathy and sorrow. Once a sword mark shattered, it meant that the sword wielder would never be able to obtain a sword maiden of the same level again. Apart from the mark on the Ziying sword, the Eagle Cat Sword Spirit's other sword marks had all shattered. In other words, the Eagle Cat Sword Spirit's ancient swords, treasured swords, and famed swords would never be able to recover. What was even more terrifying was that once a sword mark shattered, the residue after shattering would severely affect the stability of the sword wielder's Violet Palace. It would be more than 10 times more difficult for the sword wielder to synchronize with a new sword maiden. More than 98% of the sword wielder would be stuck at the level of the sword mark for the rest of their lives after their sword mark shattered, unable to advance any further. However, the only fortunate thing was that the sword mark on the Ziying Sword Spirit's sword maiden had not shattered. As long as the Ziying Sword Spirit's sword mark remained intact, the Eagle Cat Sword Spirit would still be a sword wielder, a true spirit sword wielder. However, it was difficult to keep the Ziying Sword Spirit's sword mark intact. The sword mark was on the verge of shattering, which meant that the Ziying sword itself was also on the verge of shattering. The sword mark and the sword maiden were one, so the sword maiden needed to be protected in order to keep the sword mark. If the Ziying sword was by his side, Yuzhong City would naturally have a way to repair it. After all, the Ziying sword was a man-made sword maiden. It could be forged again at most. However, the Ziying sword was currently missing. According to speculation, the Ziying sword had most likely fallen into Yuan Ko's hands after the Eagle Cat Sword Spirit was captured. It was currently under Yuan Ko's strict supervision, so retrieving the Ziying sword from Yuan Ko's camp would probably be even more difficult than saving the Eagle Cat Sword Spirit. Old man, what do you think we should do? Maybe I should go to the Meiling mountain range and see if I can bring the Ziying sword back, Lu Lei said indifferently. He did not seem to take Yuan Ko seriously at all. Don't even think about it. I can't waste you there. Although it's a bit cruel to the Eagle Cat sword, let the Eagle Cat sword be an ordinary person. He has worked hard for Yuzhang City all his life. Let him retire early. Zhu Wudao sighed. Maybe the situation isn't that bad. If the Ziying sword really is in Yuan Ko's hands, then according to their habits, the Ziying sword should have been destroyed by now. They won't let the Eagle Cat sword spirit recover. Maybe the Ziying sword isn't in Yuan Ko's hands right now. Lu Lei suddenly put forward a completely different opinion. I hope so. After saying that, Zhu Wudao walked out of the door. The information brought by the scouting team was both good and bad. He had to leave and arrange a meeting. Protecting Yuzhang City was his top priority. Chapter 487. First, cut the streaky pork into bite-sized pieces. Then, rinse them and add a spoonful of cooking wine. Soak them for an hour before draining them. In Song Yifei's kitchen, two beautiful women in aprons were huddled together. It seemed like Song Yifei was teaching Liu Yanling how to cook. Add oil to the wok and fry the meat until it's slightly yellow. Add in the dried chili, grass fruits, star anise, ginger, soy sauce, and light soy sauce. Then, add in boiling water and simmer in the clay pot for 2 hours. Song Yifei was very serious in his teaching, and so was Liu Yanling. As she watched the braised pork being simmered in the clay pot, Liu Yanling rubbed her hands and feet. She was ready to do her part. At that moment, Song Yifei's personal terminal suddenly rang with an ear-piercing alarm. Actually, it was not just Song Yifei. At that moment, about half of the sword-wielders in Yuzhang City, who were above sword grade, had their personal terminals ringing with alarms. Did something happen? Liu Yanling looked at Song Yifei, who was listening to a message. There was no alarm on her personal terminal. Song Yifei was stunned and dropped the spatula in his hand. Nothing. Song Yifei took a deep breath and turned around to tell Liu Yanling, Ling, it's finally Yuzhang City's turn to attack. At the same time, on the hover bike, Guhan was speeding alone. Misaka Mikoto was not in Guhan's car. Misaka Mikoto's ability had reached an incredible level. She could use electromagnetism to form an anti-gravity magnetic field in her body, allowing her to float in the air like a hover bike. At full speed, Misaka Mikoto's speed was a few times faster than the hover bike. At that moment, Misaka Mikoto had already gone to Fort Yuyang to scout out the situation. That's right. Guhan did not plan to follow Liu Yanling's decision to return to Yuzhang City through Fujian Province. They had decided to return to Yuzhang City through Fort Yuyang. That was the fastest option. If they took a detour through Fujian Province, they would have to waste an entire day. Most importantly, the main purpose of the trip was to accompany Misaka Mikoto to rescue her friends. The last time Misaka Mikoto saw her friends was at Yeyang Fortress. Misaka Mikoto would not give up until she turned the entire fortress upside down. Although Guhan did not want to go to Fort Yuyang as he wanted to return to Yuzhang City as soon as possible, Misaka Mikoto's opinion came first. Guhan had no choice but to listen to her. Since they were going to rescue their friends from Fort Yuyang, they had to investigate the situation at Fort Yuyang. According to Misaka Mikoto's original plan, she did not want to do any scouting. Instead, she wanted to rush into Fort Yuyang and beat Rocky up. After that, she would force him to release his friends. With Misaka Mikoto's strength as a universe-level guardian, even 2 or 3 universe-level guardians would be no match for her. She could easily take over Fort Yuyang. However, Guhan stopped Misaka Mikoto from doing that. Guhan's reason was simple. If Rocky and Misaka Mikoto's friends were not in Fort Yuyang, they would be alerting the enemy. Even if Misaka Mikoto conquered Fort Yuyang, it would be useless. On the contrary, It would alert Rocky and he would use Misaka Mikoto's friends to threaten Misaka Mikoto. If Gohan was Rocky, Gohan would do the same. Previously, he had used Misaka Mikoto to threaten her friends. Now, he was using her friends to threaten Misaka Mikoto. Things in this world were just that interesting. That was why Gohan asked Misaka Mikoto to investigate Fort Yuyang without exposing herself. He wanted to find out if Rocky was in Fort Yuyang before coming up with a new battle plan. Oh, she's back. Gohan heard a buzzing sound in his ears. Misaka Mikoto had returned after investigating for less than 10 minutes. From her unfriendly expression, it seemed like she did not get a satisfactory result. In the Central Conference Hall of the Swordbearers Service Center. The Central Conference Hall was built like a large theater. Rows of seats were filled with sword-bearers who had rushed here after receiving the alert from their gadget. If you looked closely, you would realize that all of these sword-bearers were artifact-grade sword-bearers. There wasn't even a single ancient-grade sword-bearer. There were no fixed seats in the Central Conference Hall. All the sword-bearers found their preferred seat. The seats from the 3rd to the 6th row were the most popular. When Song Yifei and Liu Ling arrived, the seats from the 3rd to the 6th row were already filled with sword-bearers. Song Yifei stuck out his tongue in annoyance. He then pulled Liu Ling to get down from the 7th row. However, when Song Yifei pulled hard, he realized that Liu Ling was not moving at all. What's wrong? Let's find a seat. Song Yifei turned around and looked at Liu Ling strangely. She could not understand why she was not moving. Why do we have to go up? Liu Ling frowned. Why do we have to sit at the back? Fleeting Cold then pointed at the first row and said, Yifei, the first row is empty. Why don't we sit in the first row? Song Yifei's expression was very strange. She didn't know how to answer this question. For her, or for most people, it was a habit to automatically sit in the back row when they entered a classroom, conference room, or any other place with many people. Of course, they didn't really want to sit in the last row. For most people, the middle seat was the best seat. This was especially obvious on a university campus. Except for those strong students, no one would take the initiative to sit in the first 2 rows. After all, it was too inconvenient to read novels in class. This had become a habit of the Chinese. Moderation was almost engraved in their bones. Even after 1,000 years, this had not changed. Therefore, when Liu Ling suggested sitting in the first row, Song Yifei felt strange. She had never taken the initiative to sit in the first row before. Although she was reluctant, Song Yifei could not say anything to refute Liu Ling. This was because she did not want to lose to Liu Ling. She did not want to lose to Liu Ling when it came to choosing seat. Therefore, Song Yifei turned around and took the initiative to sit in the first row with Liu Ling. This caused a slight commotion. The other sword-bearers were curious as to who had the guts to sit in the first row. As time passed, more and more sword-bearers took their seats, filling up the entire central meeting room. A rough estimate put the number of people at around 5,000. This was a huge number. 1/6 of the sword-bearers in Yuzhong City were here. However, what made Song Yifei feel strange was that even though she had paid special attention to Ku Rakin's figure, Ku Rakin did not appear until Zhu Wudao appeared on the rostrum. At such an important moment, this teenager, who would be embarrassed if he did not show up, did not appear. Chairman of the Yuzhong City Sword Bearers Committee Standing Meeting, Sword Immortal Zhu Wudao is here. Deputy Chairman of the Yuzhong City Sword Bearers Committee Standing Meeting, Sword Pavilion Master of Yuzhong City Heavenly Sword Immortal Lu Lei is here. Standing Member of the Yuzhong City Sword Bearers Committee Standing Meeting, Sword Spirit Chen Wen is here. Standing Member of the Yuzhong City Sword Bearers Committee Standing Meeting, Sword Spirit Mu Shui is here. Standing Member of the Yuzhong City Sword Bearers Committee Standing Meeting, Sword Spirit Li Yu is here. As the host on the stage read out the names of Zhu Wudao, Lu Lei, and a large number of other spirit sword bearers, All the sword-bearers stood up in unison and began to applaud and welcome the arrival of these high-level and powerful people of Yuzhong City. This was the first time Song Yifei had seen such a scene. She just stood up and applauded with everyone in a daze. Okay. Zhu Wudao pressed his hand down, indicating that the applause was over. Only then did everyone stop. Play Yuzhong City's city song. According to the usual routine, this kind of meeting with so many sword-bearers would have to sing the city song. However, before the host could speak, he was stopped by Zhu Wudao. Okay, you shut up. I'm not going to do these things today, Zhu Wudao said very sternly. The host was a little confused. What was going on? Wasn't it always like this? If there was no need for these procedures, then what was the point of having him as a host? Just sit down and listen to me. Under Zhu Wudao's order, the host could only reluctantly sit down on the stage. On the stage, there were only Zhu Wudao, Lu Lei, and other spirit sword-bearers sitting on the stage. At this time, besides Zhu Wudao and Lu Lei, the two immortal sword-bearers, there were 12 spirit sword-bearers sitting on the stage. There were a total of 23 spirit sword-bearers in the entire Yuzhong City, which was equivalent to half of the high-level power of Yuzhong City gathered here. What was going on? Why were there so many sword-bearers gathered here? Could it be that the Yuan Xing is about to attack us? All the sword-bearers who participated in the meeting were confused, but they had a vague feeling that some of them might not have the chance to come to this meeting room again. Chapter 488. Rocky isn't in Fort Yuyang. That was the first thing Misaka Mikoto said when she returned. She then added, "My friends aren't in Fort Yuyang as well." As a newly promoted universe-level freelancer, the small Fort Yuyang could not hide from Misaka Mikoto's spiritual sense. All she had to do was to sense it and she would know if the people she was looking for were there. That's normal. That's what I expected. Gohan was very calm when he heard Misaka Mikoto's report. He was not surprised at all. If Rocky's target is the Imperial Zergs, then Fort Yuyang is meaningless to him. It's just a stronghold to store his troops. Right now, he should be concentrating all his forces in Mei Ling Mountain Range. That's his base. It's normal that you can't find Rocky and your friends in Fort Yuyang. That's why I suggest we take a detour around Fort Yuyang and return to Yuzhong City. We'll get help from Yuzhong City's intelligence system. That way, we'll have a better chance of finding your friends. Gohan could not wait to return to Yuzhong City. However, Fort Yuyang hasn't been completely abandoned. I found out that there's a universe-level Yuan Ko guarding there. He might know where my friends are. Misaka Mikoto did not directly respond to Gohan's suggestion. However, the meaning behind her words was very clear. She did not want to let go of any clues that could lead to her friends. As a universe-level Yuan Ko who was on par with Rocky, he would definitely know a lot of secret. Most of the information about Misaka Mikoto's friends would be in the hands of universe-level Yuan Ko. I understand. Let's capture that universe-level Yuan Ko and force him to tell us where your friends are. Gohan gave up on the idea of taking a detour back to Yuzhong City. After spending the past few days together, he understood Misaka Mikoto's character very well. She was a good person who would always put her friends first. As long as there was news of her friends, she would be the first to rush to them. He would either follow her or return to Yuzhong City alone. In fact, it was not a big deal for Gohan to return alone. With his 14,000 quark sword essence, the powerful 9 swords of mysterious heaven, and the yin-yang sword art, as long as he did not encounter the meteor stage Yuan Ko, Gohan could easily kill his way back to Yuzhong City. Unfortunately, Gohan could not let go of Misaka Mikoto. Although she was very powerful and smart, she was too easily swayed by her emotions. That kind of personality would usually ruin the plan during critical moments. Loki was full of tricks. Even if Misaka Mikoto was a universe-level Yuan Ko, she would not be able to gain any benefits from Loki's trap. She might even be controlled by Loki using her friends to threaten her. After much consideration, Gohan felt that Misaka Mikoto could not fall into Loki's hands. He could only follow behind Misaka Mikoto and help her strategize so that she would not fall into his trap. Everyone must be very curious as to why I suddenly gathered everyone here. Is it because Yuan Ko has begun to attack Yuzhong City? Gu Wudao scanned the more than 5,000 swordsmen below the stage with a stern gaze. His gaze was so sharp that everyone who met his gaze could not help but avoid his gaze. Of course, that was except for Liu Ling. Then I can tell you the answer to this question now. No, of course not. Right now, Yuan Ko's main force is still staying in the Mei Ling mountain range. They haven't even come within 100 kilometers of us. We're still very safe for now, at least for today. Hearing Gu Wudao's words, all the swordsmen breathed a sigh of relief. Most of them thought that Yuan Ko's army had already set out for Yuzhong City and Gu Wudao had gathered them here to arrange a defensive battle mission. Therefore, everyone was secretly afraid that they would die in battle. Now that they heard Gu Wudao say that Yuan Ko's army was still in the Mei Ling mountain range, they all breathed a sigh of relief. The sigh of relief was originally a very small sound, but when the sound of many people's sighs of relief gathered together, it became loud enough for Gu Wudao to hear. Humph! Gu Wudao snorted with a horrified expression. The entire venue immediately fell silent and no one dared to make a sound. You can all breathe a sigh of relief now. You can breathe a sigh of relief today, but what about tomorrow? What about the day after tomorrow? What about next week? Do you still have a chance to breathe a sigh of relief here? Gu Wudao's tone was like an angry machine gun, shocking all the swordsmen into silence. Let me tell you again, it's been more than 20 days since the fall of Fort Yuyang. Do you think that Yuan Ko has been resting and breathing a sigh of relief in these 20 days? Wrong, you're very wrong. They're all accumulating their strength and looking for something that can erase Yuzhong City from the map in a few seconds. Do you understand? How could this be? No way, that's impossible. How could there be a force in this world that can erase Yuzhong City in a few seconds? The sword-bearers below the stage suddenly became restless. Even though they were suppressed by Ju Wudao's imposing manner and didn't dare to say a word, now that they had heard such explosive news, they couldn't help but discuss it. Indeed, in their minds there was no force that could destroy a base city. As a matter of fact, in the past 1,000 years, not even when humans were at their weakest, not even when they had lost 3 base cities, not once had a base city been destroyed by Yuan Ko with one strike. It was just like before the era of nuclear weapons. No one had ever imagined that something as horrifying as nuclear weapons existed in the world. Don't think that such a thing doesn't exist. It's just that you don't deserve to know about it. Gu Wudao pressed a button on the control panel. The entire conference room darkened. Then, a hexagonal cylinder was projected in front of everyone. This is called the creation divinity. It's one of the most horrifying forces in this world. Gu Wudao slowly explained the general situation of the creation divinity. However, he concealed the fact that Kanzu had been exiled to the void because of the creation divinity. Without the tacit consent of the Lun Yen family, this information would never be made public. When Ju Wudao was describing the creation godhead, everyone below the stage was silent. They listened very seriously and didn't miss a single word that Ju Wudao said. Only now did they know that such a terrifying power existed in the world. An emotion called fear began to spread in everyone's hearts. The thought that such a horrifying force could befall them at any time. Not only would it destroy them, but it would also destroy their families and the city that they cherished. All the swordsmen began to feel fear. Coupled with the dim lights, the mood in the entire conference room instantly dropped to a freezing point. Some people might find this strange and say that it was fine for the upper echelons to know about this, but not most people. otherwise it would cause social chaos. This was not without reason. However, Gu Wudao didn't tell most people. He only told the swordsmen, who were the mainstay of humanity. Humans could die, but they couldn't die without knowing what they were dying for. Only when they understood that humanity was on the brink of collapse would they do their best to join the battle. Why aren't you saying anything? Weren't there a lot of discussion just now? Why? Are you all frightened by this news? Gu Wudao asked coldly. Silence. No one knew how to answer Gu Wudao's question. Tui. F*ck them. Suddenly, a voice came from an unknown corner. Although it wasn't loud enough, it instantly exploded in the hearts of all the swordsmen. That's right. Let's F*ck them up. On the spot, a few people stood up, waved their fists, and roared. F*ck them. That's right, F*ck them. Ha ha, F*ck them. A few seconds later, the entire conference hall was filled with the words F*ck his mother. 5,000 swordsmen simultaneously shouted F*ck his mother in unison. If there was a real-time bullet screen, I believe that the entire scene would be covered by these 4 short Chinese words, without a single ray of light seeping through. F*ck. What did we women do wrong? Why do we have to call them F*ck them? Why don't you call them F*ck them? Liu Ling ridiculed from a very sharp angle. But the next second she waved her fists and shouted F*ck them, F*ck them, louder than anyone else. Many people would never forget this scene for the rest of their lives. Many years later, this video would be circulated on the internet and be sought after by all humans. There were also many people who couldn't hold back their tears when they saw this video. Their friends, teachers, classmates, and relatives could only reminisce through this video. Very good, I am very gratified. This is the voice that the brave warriors of Yuzhong City should have. 700 years ago, under the leadership of Zhetian Jiandi, our ancestors worked hard to build the great Yuzhong City. Now we, the descendants, will use our own strength to make Yuzhong City stand on this land forever. Zhu Wudao also waved his fists. Although he was a gray-haired old man, his movements were so powerful and heart-wrenching. We have to attack. The only path we can take in Yuzhong City is destruction. We must attack and seize or re-exile the Creator's godhood. My brothers, compatriots, and friends, let us raise the sword maidens in our hands and drain every drop of blood from our bodies. With this, Zhu Wudao suddenly drew out his Emperor Yu's sword and pointed it towards the sky. All for humanity. All for Yuzhong. All for humanity. All for Yuzhong. All the swordsmen followed Zhu Wudao's example. They raised their sword maidens and shouted with their lives. All for humanity. All for Yuzhong. Chapter 489. Sister Michin, if you want to successfully rescue your friends, I hope that you can listen to my commands. In a forest outside Fort Yuyang, Gohan was sitting on the ground and communicating with Misaka Michin before the battle. If Misaka Michin had not recovered, Gohan would not have said such words. However, strength was king now. If Gohan wanted to take command, he had to communicate with Misaka Michin in a friendly manner. Sure, no problem. As long as your idea is correct, I'll listen to you. I believe in your ability to command. Misaka Michin agreed readily. When they broke through the zombies' defensive line, Gohan's imagination and ability to command had amazed Misaka Michin. Misaka Michin was not a strong-willed person, so she agreed to Gohan's request without hesitation. All right, it's a deal. Gohan extended his hand. Misaka Michin hesitated for a while before giving Gohan's hand a pat. It's a deal. First of all, Michin, you must promise me that you won't expose the fact that you've become a universe-level freak. If possible, I hope that you can return to the state where the electromagnetic model in your body was destroyed. Guhan smiled and gave his first suggestion. You little brat, what kind of devious ideas are you plotting? When Misaka Mikoto heard Guhan's words, she knew that Guhan had a lot of evil intentions in his heart. It's nothing much. If a universe-level Yuan-ko wants to escape, even if you're a universe-level Yuan-ko, I'm afraid that you won't be able to stop him. It's better to let him come to us on his own accord. That way we can save some effort. It seemed like Yuan-ko, who was left behind in Fort Yuyang, was going to be in trouble. Everyone will be divided into 3 battlefields. 3 different teams will be assigned to different missions. In the central conference room, Zhu Wudao waved his hand and a scale map of Mei Ling Mountain was projected. The key to Loki's plan is to find the Emperor Zurg dimensional crystal hidden in Yuzhong City. Without the Emperor Zurg, Loki is just a universe-level Yuan-ko. It's impossible for him to control the powerful creation deity's personality. That's why our first target is to destroy Loki's method of obtaining the Emperor Zurg. As he said that, Zhu Wudao tapped a few times on the projected map. 6 locations on the map were marked by Zhu Wudao, and a long earthworm was drawn on them. Before I announce this plan, I would first like to thank our brave and fearless sky-piercing sword reconnaissance team. In yesterday's operation, the sky-piercing sword team not only perfectly investigated the situation of the entire Mei Ling mountain range, but also rescued our eagle cat sword spirit. They are a great team, a team that will be forever remembered by Yuzhong City. Speaking of this, Zhu Wudao's face suddenly became gloomy. However, one of their members, Tyrant Wang, disappeared when he went down the mountain to deliver the information. He hasn't been found yet. Perhaps he has sacrificed his life for our Yuzhong City. I suggest that we observe a minute of silence for Tyrant Wang to express our grief for him. After Zhu Wudao finished speaking, he took the lead to bend his waist. The rest of the sword-bearers also followed suit and entered a minute of silence. A minute later. According to our brave sky-piercing sword squad, there are a total of 6 giant platinum earthworms distributed in these locations. They're continuously mining the ore in the vein in an attempt to dig out the ore containing the Emperor Zurg. I have to admit that the speed of these 6 giant platinum earthworms in a day is equivalent to our speed in half a month. If they continue to dig like this, even if they can't dig out the Emperor Zurg, the Mei Ling vein that Yuzhong City relies on for survival will be completely emptied. We can't allow that to happen. Zhu Wudao forcefully knocked on these points. We have to kill these giant platinum gold earthworms. Our main mission is to kill these giant platinum gold earthworms. Aren't these the locations with the most abundant ore veins in the Mei Ling mountain range? These Yuan-ko's eyes are really sharp. The sword-bearers who saw these locations were amazed. They didn't expect Yuan-ko to be so familiar with the situation in the Mei Ling mountain range. Quiet down. Many of our compatriots have been captured by Yuan-ko and are suffering the most painful torture. It's not strange for a few weak-willed fellows to leak the location of the Mei Ling mountain ranges or veins. There's nothing to make a fuss about. Next, I'm going to talk about the most important thing. Zhu Wudao's words quickly calmed the scene down. My plan is for 3 teams to start attacking from these 3 spots. Each team will be responsible for 2 giant platinum earthworms and send them back to the dimensional whirlpool. Without the giant platinum earthworms, I want to see how Loki can mine. Zhu Wudao said domineeringly. Pleated sword spirit, I will assign you 1,500 sword bearers and famous sword bearers. There will also be 2 spiritual sword bearers as your assistants. You will start from point A and be responsible for the giant platinum earthworms at point 1 and 2. Zhu Wudao touched a few spots, indicating that the pleated sword spirit was responsible for those spots. I promise to complete the mission. Between me and these 2 earthworms, only one can live. The pleated sword spirit clenched his fists and said while gritting his teeth. Sword Spirit Mu Shui, I will also assign you 1,500 sword bearers and famous sword bearers. There will also be 2 spiritual sword bearers as your assistants. You will start from point B and be responsible for the giant platinum earthworms at point 3 and 4. Zhu Wudao continued to assign. Then, a slim but slightly ugly female sword bearer took over the mission. She was Sword Spirit Mu Shui Zhang Mu. Wine Poem Sword Spirit, you will lead 2,000 sword bearers and famed sword bearers. At the same time, there will be 3 spirit sword bearers as your assistants. You will set off from point C and be responsible for the giant platinum earthworms at point 5 and point 6. However, you are different from the other 2. Because the Luo Ting camp is the closest to the giant platinum earthworms at point 6, you will also be responsible for destroying all the stone crushers we have left there. If the giant platinum earthworms are not completely destroyed, we can also slow down the speed of Loki's crushing stones. The sword spirit Jiu Shi was a gentle and refined man with a gentle and elegant temperament. He looked rather similar to Dawn, one of the 4 heavenly kings before the great calamity. Speaking of which, the sword spirit Jiu Shi's surname was also Li. Yes, perhaps they were related by blood. Who knew? Zhu Wudao assigned more than 5,000 sword-bearers in no time. Next, it was Zhu Wudao and Lu Lei's own task. Once you guys start attacking, Loki and the other level Yuan Ko will definitely counterattack. However, you don't have to worry. Lu Lei, I, and the remaining spiritual sword-bearers will help you stall those level Yuan Ko. However, you only have 1 hour. Within 1 hour, you must destroy the giant platinum earthworms in your hand. As for what will happen after 1 hour, we'll talk about it when the time comes. If we 2 old bones are still capable, maybe by that time, a level Yuan Ko will fall on Mount Miling. Zhu Wudao sneered. This war conference was about to enter the last part. Next is the problem of everyone's assignment. I'll give you guys 5 minutes to report the names of the teams you want to form. I'll assign them according to your list. When these sword bearers fought outside, they usually formed their own teams with a few people or even a dozen people. This way they would be safer outside. These teams had fought their way through countless battles, so they were the most trustworthy and had the most tacit understanding with each other. When they fought together, their combat power was not as simple as 1 + 1 is equal to 2. Because of this, Zhu Wudao asked them to report the names of the teams they wanted to form. This way, they could maximize the strength of the sword bearers. These sword bearers were most familiar with their teammates. Without hesitation, they reported the name list of their team members at lightning speed. As for Song Yifei, he directly jumped from ancient sword bearers to treasure sword bearers. After taking a few basic classes at Yuzhong University, he was thrown into the same team as Guhan to complete the trial mission. Therefore, Song Yifei didn't have any teammates. If he had, it would be Guhan, Yi Wenjun, Ku Rokin, and Liunian Ling. Unfortunately, Guhan hadn't returned yet. Yi Wenjun and Ku Rokin hadn't appeared in the conference hall. Song Yifei could only fill in the name of Liunian Ling. It was quite tragic when he thought about it. 5 minutes passed quickly. All the teams had been reported and were waiting to be assigned to the 3 different teams. Of course, this assignment wasn't done by Wu Dao. There were 5,000 people and hundreds or even thousands of teams. He, Wu Dao, didn't have the time in the United States to assign these things. All the names were uploaded to the BAT supercomputer, which was in the hands of Tomono Kakazi. With the help of the supercomputing chip, the most reasonable assignment table was quickly calculated and sent to the personal terminals of the sword bearers. Ah, I've been assigned to the pleated blade spirit. Ling, see if you're also with the pleated blade spirit. Song Yifei's personal terminal chimed, and her message was sent. Is that so? I might have to wait for a while. Liunian Ling's personal terminal didn't respond. At this time, the other sword bearers' personal terminals chimed one after another. Within a few seconds, everyone received their assigned information. Tomono Kakazi's computing speed was still outstanding. However, Liu Ling's personal terminal still didn't receive any information. Liu Ling didn't need to think to know that Zhu Wudao was behind this. She didn't say anything and directly jumped onto the rostrum. Grandpa Zhu, which team am I in? Chapter 490. She's still here. Zhu Wudao's heart skipped a beat. As expected, Liu Ling was unwilling to be excluded. This was a habit of the Liu family. The Liu family would not stay out of this matter no matter what. However, Zhu Wudao didn't want Liu Ling to interfere. Liu Ling was the only descendant of the Liu family. If she died in the Miling mountain range, how could he face Lord Kanzu's spirit in heaven? Ling, why are you here? I don't remember your name being on the invitation list. Zhu Wudao didn't panic. He smiled at Liu Ling. Of course, Liu Ling didn't receive an invitation. She came with Song Yifei. Song Yifei didn't think too much about it. Since Liu Ling wanted to come, did she have any reason to refuse? I'm here myself. Can't I? Liu Ling glared at Zhu Wudao. She didn't back down at all. The 5,000 sword-bearers behind her clicked their tongues in wonder. They didn't know where this woman came from. How dare she speak to Sword Immortal Baiju like this? Most importantly, Sword Immortal Baiju didn't seem angry at all. It was as if Liu Ling's attitude was natural. Of course. We have an agreement with the 8 cities. Miss Ling, you can come and go as you please. We have no objections. Zhu Wudao's words caused another round of gasps. Who was this woman? How could she have such terrifying authority? If she wanted to go to the top floor of the sword pavilion, would no one be able to stop her? Although most of the sword-bearers were at a loss when they heard the news, some of them were knowledgeable enough to guess Liu Ling's identity. They didn't expect that the descendant of the Liu family would be here as well. Ling, it's your freedom to come here, but it's also our Yuzhang city's freedom to plan the battle. This battle is our Yuzhang people's business. It has nothing to do with your Yanjing people. Please don't make things difficult for me. I've already made arrangements. The sword-bearers from Yanjing and the other base cities will be responsible for the defense of Yuzhang City. Go and find the people from Yanjing. They are staying in the Yanjing Hotel. Zhu Wudao was adamant about not letting Liu Ling join the battle. This made Liu Ling feel very helpless. In the command hall of Yeyang Fortress, Hercules was concentrating on a novel in his hand. Judging from the title, it should be a novel from before the apocalypse called Alabuta's Sacrifice. It was a novel that Hercules had obtained from Athena's collection after much difficulty. In order to see the true face of this divine book, Hercules had even made a promise to Athena that as long as it was within his ability, he would definitely do it for her. That was how he got the book from Athena. Hercules had no other hobbies other than these novels written before the apocalypse, especially the novels written by a Chinese and Taiwanese writer named Lawson. Unfortunately, many of Lawson's works were destroyed during the apocalypse and the Great Cultural Destruction. This Alipida Year's Sacrifice had become a unique work. Only Athena still had these 32 volumes. Legend had it that the other 32 volumes could not be found at all. This made Hercules, who had read it several times, feel an itch in his heart, but he could do nothing about it. Hercules might not be familiar with the name Hercules, but his other name was Hercules. Hercules was the child of Zeus and a human. He had half human blood and half divine blood. He was one of the demigods. Generally speaking, the demigods in the Greek pantheon were half-baked guys, such as Achilles, Aetes, and the like. They weren't as good as the best, but they were better than the worst. They were somewhere between the dragon-level elemental soul and the dragon-level elemental soul. Many of them had died in battles over the past 1,000 years, and they didn't have any notable achievements in their lives. However, Hercules was a demigod. According to the legends, he was able to fight against most of the Greek gods. He was a powerful warrior who killed the Medusa, a great class elemental. After his death, he ascended to heaven and became the Hercules of the Greek pantheon. He was even able to fight on par with Apollo. Thus, Heracles became the only universe-level elemental among the demigods. His brute strength could be said to have reached the pinnacle. Legend had it that if he hit Earth with all his strength, he could cause the Earth's orbit to deviate by a centimeter. This showed how terrifying Heracles' strength was. At this moment, Hercules was one of the helpers Loki had hired. He was responsible for protecting Loki's rear at Yueyang Fortress. Logically speaking, Hercules should not have appeared here. Loki belonged to Norse mythology, while Hercules belonged to Greek mythology. In real history, for the ownership of the faith of the whole of Europe, the two pantheons were constantly fighting each other. This war lasted for thousands of years, and the hatred between the two pantheons was as deep as the sea. They could not wait to destroy each other. However, the situation changed during the Age of Destruction. The Norse pantheon was heavily damaged by the longevity Giendi. Their leader, Odin, was blasted into the void by the longevity Giendi and never appeared again. The entire Norse pantheon lost the power of the prehistoric Yuan Ko and became a piece of meat coveted by others. Helplessly, under the leadership of the new main god, Loki, he took the initiative to find the archenemy of the Greek pantheon, Zeus. He took the initiative to submit to Zeus and became a subsidiary pantheon of the Greek pantheon. Later, in order to deal with the threat of the Eastern Celestial Court, Zeus took the initiative to form an alliance with the god of Jehovah pantheon. Together, they formed the Western Temple, one of the three most powerful Yuan Ko forces in the Yuan Ko pantheon. The Norse pantheon and the Greek pantheon became familiar with each other. Many of the gods put down their old grudges and became new friends. Loki and Hercules were one such example. Because Hercules was half human and half god, he was disdained and rejected by many Greek gods. Especially when Hercules became a Yun level that even pure-blooded gods could rarely reach, Yuan Ko was even more envious. Other than Apollo and Athena, Hercules had no other friends in the divine kingdom. Loki's bloodline was noble, and he deliberately made friends with Hercules. Soon, the two of them became good friends and comrades. This time, Loki had made a big move. In order to ensure that everything went smoothly, he would not let go of Hercules, who was so good at fighting. Under Loki's invitation, Hercules joined the operation and guarded Fort Yueyang for Loki. Logically speaking, Hercules did not want to guard Fort Yueyang. He only wanted to join the battle as soon as possible and smash the heads of some human sword-bearers to vent his unbridled strength. However, Loki insisted that he stay in Fort Yueyang. This made Hercules feel very uncomfortable. Even the Alabutayir's sacrifice, which he could read for dozens of hours without panting, could not wear down Hercules's excess energy. As he read, his mind began to wander. Just when Hercules was bored to death, something interesting suddenly happened. One of Hercules's Saint Seiya suddenly came to report that a group of kobolds had discovered a sword-bearers fighting in the forest west of Fort Yueyang. They did not know what to do. When Hercules first heard the report, he was very confused. What was there to report about a sword-bearers fighting in the forest west of Fort Yueyang? Why didn't they just go up and kill him? Why did they have to report it to him? Could it be that they were planning to let a great universe-level Yuan puppet like him personally take action? Forget it, he was just worried that he had nowhere to use his strength. Now that he had a sword-bearer, he could relax a little. He could only hope that the sword mistress of this sword-bearer was of a higher level and could take a few hits. When Hercules arrived at the battlefield, he was shocked to find that things were not as simple as he thought. The sword mistress who was being chased by a human sword-bearer was none other than Misaka Mikoto, who had escaped from Fort Yueyang. At that moment, Misaka Mikoto was in a sorry state. She no longer had the majestic aura of a U-level Yuan Ko. She was being chased by a small ancient sword-tier sword mistress. Her clothes were in tatters, and she was about to fall under the sword of this ancient sword-tier sword mistress. She would become the second U-level Yuan Ko to die at the hands of an ancient sword-tier sword mistress. Hercules was not surprised by this situation. He was part of the group that attacked Misaka Mikoto with Loki. He was there when Misaka Mikoto escaped and saw her explode her godhead with his own eyes. P.S. Hercules was not very clear about Misaka Mikoto's situation. He thought that all U-level Yuan Ko had godheads in their bodies like him. That was how she managed to escape. Since her godhead had exploded, it was not surprising that Misaka Mikoto was being chased by an ancient sword-tier sword mistress. However, he heard from Loki that Misaka Mikoto should have escaped hundreds of kilometers away. Why would she appear next to Fort Yuyang again? Forget it, I don't care anymore. I can't let Misaka Mikoto die in front of me. If that pervert in Liberty City finds out about this, he'll do anything he wants. I can't bear the wrath of that pervert. With that, Hercules leaped up and charged toward Misaka Mikoto like a cannonball. The ancient sword-tier sword mistress who was attacking Misaka Mikoto reacted quickly. When she saw Hercules coming toward her, she immediately turned into a stream of light and returned to the human sword-bearer who was secretly commanding the battle 1 or 2 kilometers away. There was no way Hercules would let a sword mistress escape from under his nose. Without another word, he went after the unfortunate human sword-bearer. Hercules, don't hurt that human. I have something to ask him. Misaka Mikoto said immediately when she saw Hercules chasing after the human sword-bearer. Hercules blinked. His fist that was originally going to blow up the human sword-bearer's head turned into a claw. In less than 2 seconds, he grabbed the neck of the human sword-bearer and returned to Misaka Mikoto's side. The human sword-bearer who was caught was, of course, Gohan. Chapter 491. What do you want to ask this human? Why did you come back here? Hercules looked at Gohan's head in frustration. He wanted to crush Gohan's head to vent the excess energy in his body. Gohan's neck was choked by Hercules, and his legs kept swaying back and forth. He was like a rabbit that was still struggling in the hands of a hunter. Sooner or later, he would die. Thanks to this idiot, I was chased all the way back here. Misaka Mikoto's face was pale. Hercules, you are also a hero. Why are you helping Loki? Loki is my friend. I am just helping my friend. Hercules suddenly showed an honest expression. Loki said that I can't really hurt you. Since you are back, follow me back to Yang Fortress. When the war is over, Loki will let you go back to the Freeman City. Hercules, since you are helping your friend, let me ask you something. How are my friends now? Are they okay? Misaka Mikoto suddenly asked. Hercules was not surprised by Misaka Mikoto's question. He had seen the relationship between Misaka Mikoto and her friends. To be honest, he admired such a relationship. Don't worry, your friends are fine. Loki has treated them well. They are now following Loki to Mei Ling Mountain. When the war is over, you will be able to see them again. Hercules readily revealed the whereabouts of Misaka Mikoto's friends. It was no secret to Hercules. Besides, Misaka Mikoto could not even defeat an ancient sword-tier sword mistress. What else could she do? As expected, Loki brought them to Mei Ling Mountain after all. Misaka Mikoto lamented in her heart. This was what she and Gohan had expected, but it was also the last thing she wanted to hear. With her friends by Loki's side, they could become Loki's means of threatening her at any time. It seemed like the show had to continue. Okay, Hercules, I will go back with you. Misaka Mikoto nodded and then looked at Gohan in Hercules' hand. She sneered. Hercules, can you put him down now? I have something to say to him. You are a god. What do you have to say to a human? Hercules said disdainfully. Although the Yuan Ko's standard of strength was based on the various levels set by humans, and all the Yuan Ko came into contact with it, the specific title was different from the Yuan Ko's mouth. The freemen, like humans, used the system of rat-tiger-dragon, ghost-dragon, life-death universe to refer to themselves. However, when it came to the Western Temple, the universe-level Yuan-ko became a god. These people claimed to be gods, but they always looked down on humans as if they were looking at ants. P.S. A reader pointed out to the author that if the Yuan-ko also referred to themselves as universe-level Yuan-ko and universe-level Yuan-ko, it would be a little too out of place. It was just like how Ma Rong and Song Zhe would never call themselves adulterers. The author felt that the reader's words made sense. There was indeed a bug in the system that the author did not think of. The author felt sorry for everyone. Therefore, the author modified the setting. In the future, the Yuan-kos would use different titles to refer to themselves according to their faction, bloodline, and identity. This would make it more scientific and credible. However, these Yuan-kos have accepted and are familiar with the Yuan-ko system set by humans. They will subconsciously convert their titles to the Yuan-ko system, and there will be no misunderstandings. That's the general modification. The author feels sorry for everyone. There are some things that I did not think of at the beginning, and now it is a little confusing. The author bows to all the readers. Humph. Hercules, aren't you a human yourself? Misaka Mikoto did not hesitate to poke at the sore spot in Hercules's heart. She then added, Hercules, do you really think that the gods will accept you? Are you really a god? In the eyes of those gods, including Loki, who you regard as your brother and friend, you are just a mixed blood. Shut up. Heracles' breathing became rapid. It had been many years since someone dared to face him directly and expose the hidden pain in his heart. He said with a hideous face, Don't you want this human? I will kill this human now. It's up to you whether you want to kill him or not. It doesn't matter if I ask this question or not. He has been hunting us for 3 days and 3 nights. I just want to ask him why he has such a huge hatred for me. Misaka Mikoto did not look at Gohan, as if she really did not care about Gohan. She continued to provoke Hercules. Hercules, do you think that the gods will treat you as a god just because you killed a human? As long as there is even a drop of human blood flowing in your body, you are a bastard in their eyes. You, Hercules, know this better than I do, don't you? Hercules, you may not know this, but the mayor once told me that you are the god most likely to get rid of the filth in your blood. As long as you are willing, the Freedom Metropolis can help you get rid of all this. Join us, the Freedom Metropolis, and become a new free man. This is the best future for you. After listening to Misaka Mikoto's long speech, Hercules fell into a deep loneliness. He even loosened his grip on Gohan's neck, allowing Gohan a few breaths of fresh air so that he would not be strangled to death. Suddenly, Hercules stomped hard on the ground with his right foot. A shockwave, centered on Hercules, swept across the entire radius of 2 to 3 kilometers. Except for the 2 saints beside Hercules, all the other Yuan-ko were blasted into a cloud of blood mist. Then a dimensional vortex appeared and sucked in the bodies of these Yuan-ko. So, you came back to say this nonsense to me. Hercules's eyes were deep. It seemed that he was not as simple and honest as he looked. Do you think I will be bewitched by you? If you are not tempted, then why did you kill these unlucky people? Misaka Mikoto glanced at the empty surroundings where there was not a single Yuan-ko. Hercules, my words are always valid. When you have thought it through, send someone to inform me. The Freedom Metropolis will do our best to help you. That day will never come. Hercules tossed Gohan back to Misaka Mikoto. Look after him. Don't let him run around in Fort Yuyang. I have no interest in helping you protect a human's life. After saying that, Heracles turned around and left. His 2 Saints Seiya helped Misaka Mikoto and Gohan up and brought them behind Heracles as they returned to Fort Yuyang under the blood-red glow of the setting sun. These 2 saints were dragon-level and extremely powerful among the saints. To be able to escape Hercules' attempt to silence them, They must be Hercules's most trusted subordinates. Under Hercules's lead, even if a human entered Fort Yuyang, the Yuan Ko would not dare to act rashly. They could only watch as Guhan entered the fortress's command building. After that, a room was allocated to Misaka Mikoto and Guhan. After that, Hercules disappeared. He did not come to see them for the whole day. Beep beep beep. An electric spark flashed on Misaka Mikoto's fingertip. She nodded. There are no surveillance devices in this room, and there are no university-level surveillance spells. I don't think anyone is eavesdropping on us. We can talk without worry. Don't worry. Even if Hercules knows everything about us, he won't do anything to us. Your words have opened a hole in his heart. He must have wanted to leave the Temple of the West for a long time. I made the right bet. Guhan clenched his fists as he spoke. You're still talking about winning the bet? I almost couldn't hold myself back just now. If Hercules had used a little more strength, your neck would have been snapped by him. I couldn't have stopped him in time, Misaka Mikoto said with a frown. It's fine. Even if my neck was snapped, I won't die in the medical pod, Guhan said nonchalantly. However, with Misaka Mikoto's university-level reflexes, even if she could not save Guhan's neck in time, she could defeat Hercules the moment Guhan's neck was snapped. Then, she could place Guhan in the medical pod for treatment. Even if Misaka Mikoto did not make it in time, Guhan could return to Changyang Mountain in an instant. With the help of the memory fragments, Guhan could be sent to the medical pod. Of course, that would be the worst outcome, and Guhan did not want that to happen. Next time, don't gamble with your life. My mother told me that those who drown are good at swimming. If you don't change your way of thinking about gambling with your life, you'll die from it sooner or later. Misaka Mikoto suddenly said something that was full of philosophy. If I don't have enough strength, I can only make up for it with my life. Guhan smiled bitterly. Don't worry, I know what I'm doing. I hope so. Misaka Mikoto looked deeply into Guhan's eyes. You're really amazing. You've never met Hercules before, but you're able to grasp his thoughts. I can't believe what you taught me shook him completely. Who said I have never met Hercules? Guhan recalled the countless sword Maiden online walkthroughs in his mind. Do you know a quest called Heart of the Brave? That quest can reveal far more than what I just said. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.